Today we're going to be doing a presentation with Diane on motivational interviewing, and I'll let Diane introduce herself a little bit. But this is from the Michigan Higher Education Network, and if you're not a part of the network, go ahead and just email me or message me on here, and I'll get your email, and we'll help you join the network as best as we can so we can get you involved in other stuff.
And then I think the other thing is add, if you have any questions or this is going to be a little bit more informal. Diane is open to discussion. There are going to be some breakout groups, things like that. But if you have any questions or want to add, we're also going to be monitoring the chat, and you feel free to ask throughout the presentation. Anything else, Diane, that Hara and I are missing?
Also, if you have something to say, I know it's awkward. How do you break in on Zoom? Just break in. Just jump in there, unmute yourself, break in there and talk. And just take care of yourselves, do what you gotta do. I do plan in breaks, but sometimes I get rolling and I blow it. I really work hard. That is something that I get on feedback a lot. Like, dude, you gotta like give us breaks. I'm like, I know, I'm so sorry. Okay. So I do have breaks. Sometimes I need to be reminded, and I'm good with that. And other times you just need to take care of your business. So please do so. So that's always important for me to say, especially working remotely from home, like stuff happens, right? Do what you got to do. I'm just really excited you all are joining today. This is so great.
Yes. Well, thank you, Diane. And we'll let you get started.
Do it. Is that it? You just want to jump in there?
Yeah.
I put my last bite in my mouth. All right, hold
on. Just really quick, we can go over some housekeeping things. If you want to keep your mic muted if you're not speaking, that way we can hear Diane clearly and loudly. Go ahead and do that. Otherwise, feel free to jump in. If you have a question, you can type that in the chat. We'd be happy to see your faces if you want to keep your camera on, and we look forward to going through this webinar with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Louise and Hara, thank you so much for having me. I met Louise, was that last year? Was that this year? When was that? When was I in Michigan?
That was 2019.
Okay. Before the year that shall not be mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Wait, but did I meet you in Michigan, or did I meet you in Colorado?
You may have met me in Colorado. Yeah. No, it was in Michigan. Maybe at NASPA before that, but Michigan, you came up to Traverse City your first time.
That's right.
The Mining Conference.
Okay, so yes, we've met at conferences before, but then I was thinking of presenting. I'm like, when I did go to Michigan, because I did go to Michigan, I forget where I went, but I had the whole thing. I nailed it, and it was my way of joining early. Now I'm blowing it, so I'll have to find another way to join with you all. But yes, it was in Colorado, and it was great. Right, that was in March. That was like right before the shutdown. Like I snuck that in. That was so fabulous. So it is so good to see you, and thank you for inviting me to another training. And Hara and I just met, so congratulations on your new position, and really want to thank the Michigan Higher Education Network for sponsoring this and having this here. And foremost, thank you all for showing up to this. Well, to this, whatever this is. And I really, everything I'm doing, I'm like, all these new programs that I'm running at UMass and stuff, I'm like, yes, well, this experiment, and I'm like, oops, no, delete experiment, put pilot. Okay, but it feels like an experiment, So welcome to this. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you all. So my name is Diane Fedorchak. I work at UMass Amherst, and I've been at the University of Massachusetts Amherst since 2000. And I've had lots of different positions there. From grad student, I started there as a grad student. I then went to an interim health educator position to a full-time health educator position. During those few years from grad student on, I really found my passion. Well, I always found my passion in alcohol and other drugs, which led me to the professional work of prevention and intervention. So I had to have a lifetime of experience before I got on the prevention side of things, and really found my niche and my passion in that work, in substance abuse prevention and intervention work. And then was the basics project director and was on the team that got a grant and brought the basics program to UMass Amherst and began implementing that, and then assistant director and now interim director. And UMass likes to have interns for years, so I'm finishing my, well, I'm on my now 5th year as interim director. So yeah, cheers to that. Gotta love that. But what I really love to do, there's a couple of things I love to do the most. One is talk to students who are really struggling with substances. That is really where my heart and passion lies. If I can't be doing that, then I love talking to you all with how you all talk with students about, well, anything about substances, about sexuality, about sexual assault, about eating, about exercise, about anything. I really love talking with you all and learning from your experience as well. So that's what we're gonna do here today. I was talking to Louise and Hannah at the beginning here saying, I'm gonna model some things here. So some of which I'm gonna try some new things. And if that is okay with you, if you're okay for me to try out some new things, and if I can have your permission to screw it up a little bit, and keep moving on, that would be helpful. Because we're all trying new things in these times, aren't we? And so I'm just gonna model, let's try it. Thank you, Cara. Let's try it and see what happens. Cara will keep letting people in as they come in. You know, you're welcome to keep your videos off. For those of you who have it on, thank you. It's really hard. This stuff is, it's hard to read the room. You know, I like to interact and read the room. So, so I welcome you to keep your videos off as necessary. And whenever you would like to, I invite you to open them. It's challenge by choice. It's all up to you. All right, so let's see. What am I going to do? I'm going to share screen and find on my screen where things are very organized in the background here as to where my presentation is. Oh, there it is. It's right there. Okay. This is good. This is good times. I'm going to share. Oh. All right. There's also a little lag time, sorry, in when you do this, because you have to, I don't know, I talk to myself, I make funny faces. It's very awkward. Okay, there we go. Share. All right. So. There we go. And then I'm going to do the thing that every presenter does during these awkward moments is, can you see my screen? You see motivational interviewing and basics in the hybrid world. Yes, okay, thank you. That is the thing people ask about. Oh, the things we do. All right. What I would like to do, and this, I'm telling you, this still does not feel natural to me, but I am pushing my comfort zone every time I do this, and I'm going to continue to push my comfort zone and just take a few minutes to get grounded. So if you would indulge me in me continuing to push past my comfort zone and something that does not come natural to me, if we could just take a few moments, use it however you like. If your screen is off and you're like, peace out, bean sprout, I'm going to get more coffee, or, you know, the egg buffet is set up in your kitchen, hey, go for it. But for those of you who would like to just get present, and it really just helps me land and be here with you and gets myself present. So I'm going to invite you to use it as you wish. So we're going to do a little quietness. I'm going to say a few things. We're going to go quiet, and then we'll see where that takes us. Cool. All right. Great. It's great. Okay. So I'm going to invite you all to close your eyes if you wish, to look at this beautiful paradise here, or I really wish I were after this, not now. There's no place I want to be but here with you all now, but after, I would love to be in that pool of water. So whatever you would look, whatever's comfortable for you to do with your eyes. I'm going to invite us to just collectively on the screen take 2 nice big breaths. Just on your own, just together, in and out. Nice breath in and out. And in and out. I continue to be amazed, particularly during these hectic stressful, uncertain days, how amazing a deep breath is. I honor each and every one of you for choosing to be here today and for all it took to get to be on this screen today. For some of us, it might have started last night in preparations to get everything done for yourself, your colleagues, your family, your work, your neighbors, whoever you take care of. For doing what you need to do in the morning and all of the work-life things, and then to be here. I really enjoy engaging in a space where we all have an open learner's mind and we all seek for those little nuggets that will help us in our everyday life and in our work life. And we're going to be talking a lot about alcohol and other drugs, and I want to honor those who are sick and struggling and suffering. Those who have lost their lives due to substances. Those lives who are touched by others' use of substances. I want to light a virtual proverbial candle so that those suffering may find their way to healing. I invite you to just take a moment and use it how you wish to be present. When you're ready, you can sharpen your gaze. All right, thank you. Oh man, that's just a reminder that like just a minute of doing that is immensely helpful. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna work on that. Okay. All right, thanks for being here. This is so great. How many we got? All right, this is perfect. So here's what I'm gonna ask you to do. We are gonna jump into this. We're gonna get going right away. Though there's just a few of us on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 16, 17. Is that right? Okay, great. Then here's what I would like to do first. And I was just saying this before. My college coach used to say all the time, adapt, adjust, and improvise. And as a 19, 20, 21-year-old smartass, I would be like, hey, adapt, adjust, and improvise. Coach, what does that mean? Okay, well, turns out she's got some smart things. So I'm going to adapt, adjust, and improvise here. And I would just like to go around. I would love for you to say your name. I invite you to share a pronoun if you would like to. If you wish to. Nobody is ever forced to share their pronoun, but I invite you to if you would like. Oh, gosh. And I was wondering what the heck happened. And where you're calling in from, and a strength. Just name a strength that is kind of getting you through this time, or a strength that you have. So it'll go something like this. Good morning, everyone. My name is Diane Fedorchak. I use she, her pronouns. I am zooming in from you from my corner office, aka the corner of my bedroom, from Florence, Massachusetts, which is a part of Northampton, Massachusetts, which is Western Mass. Y'all come up to Massachusetts sometime, give me a ring. I would love to show you town. A strength that I have, I kind of lean on this one when I do these presentations and stuff. I'm gonna go with determined. I'm a pretty determined person. All right, we're gonna do this for the sake of ease in these situations. Like, how do you facilitate these types of conversations to keep it moving smoothly? I'm gonna pass it to somebody. If you're like, I am not ready, you just say, I'm gonna pass for now too, and pass it to somebody else. If you're ready to go, do it up and then pass it to somebody. Cool? Cool. Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to pass it to Jordan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Salerno. The pronouns I use are she, her. I am currently coming to you from Metro Detroit area. I'm living in like the Milford, Brighton area right now, but I work at Michigan State University. And a strength that's been getting me through is being able to connect to people and just staying connected through this time. And then also through, I mean, all parts of life, work, personal connections, all of that. And I'm excited to be here.
Will you pass it to somebody, Jordan? Thank you. And will you pass it? Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, I will pass it to, I have to see the participants. Christina.
Hi. How did I know you were going to pick me while I was trying to figure out where the mute button was? I am Christina Reed. She, hers is my pronoun. I am from Kettering University in Flint, but I am currently at my kitchen table listening with a different ear to a first grade virtual classroom. And so I guess the best word at this moment is patience, maybe. And yeah, we'll stick to patience because it's kind of hilarious at this moment where life leads us. Was there anything else I missed, Diane?
Perfect, Christina. Thank you. And thank you for joining in, and all the multitasking that we are called to do these days is really something. Just pick somebody and pass it. And if you can't see anybody, I will do that for you.
I see Lisa.
Thank you, Christina.
See, here I am. So my name is Lisa Buska. My pronoun is she, hers. I am in Richmond, Michigan. I am currently the regional coordinator for a program called Hope Not Handcuffs and a program supervisor for family recovery coaching. And my passion or my strength, let's see, would probably be my passion to help. So that's what keeps me going, is I know I'm making a difference.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will pass it to Louise.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. I am Louise, she, her, hers pronouns. And I would say a strength of mine is probably flexibility right now. And being flexible in the moment as it's needed. I will pass it to Karen.
Hi, everyone. Karen Giles Smith, she, her, hers. And I am a registered dietitian. I work at Michigan State University in the health promotion department. And what else? So my strength, this is kind of funny because this used to be one of my weaknesses, but my strength now, and I think it's because I'm older and wiser, is rolling with it. So that's what I'm doing, just rolling with it.
Thank you.
And I'll pass it to Kara Ludlow.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Kara Ludlow. I go by pronouns she and hers. And I am zooming to you today from a tiny town called Langsburg, Michigan, which is about 20 miles north of Michigan State University, where I work, from what used to be my guest room in my house, and then now is some sort of converted office space that gets the best internet in my 100-year-old farmhouse. I think the piece I'm, in terms of strength, is just really my passion and excitement for this work. I freaking love it. I love working with our students. I love working in this field, and it recharges me every day, although a little bit more difficulty now being virtual. So I'm definitely an in-person person, but super excited to be here with Diane because I saw her last year at the conference, and like fucking amazing. So So I'm really excited to be back here today. And I'll say no more since I just dropped the F-bomb.
Yes. Karen, thank you for that. And I love that you were the first one to drop it because I'm from Jersey, and that's just like, you know, in our whatever. Sometimes I call it my Jersey Tourette's, not to make light of Tourette's because it's So I don't mean to be ableist there. So thank you for being the first one to drop it. Will you pass it to somebody? Thank you. It's good to see you again.
Yes, I will. I will pass it to my amazing colleague, Dawn.
Great.
Thanks, Kara. Can you hear me? I have a double mute, and I don't know if it's working.
You're great, Dawn.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. My name is Dawn Kepler. I am coming to you from my front porch in Charlotte, Michigan, because I have a sick, crying baby inside the house with my poor husband right now. And I work at Michigan State University as well, overseeing the collegiate recovery community as well as recovery housing on campus. And I think my strengths right now that I'm really leaning on are looking for and appreciating the silver linings, like being able to work outside on a beautiful morning like this. And I will go ahead and throw it next to Jessica Miller.
All right, we will let Jessica come back to us as she's able to. And can I pass it from there, Dawn? We'll invite Olivia.
Hi, my name is Olivia Krish. My pronouns would be she and hers. I am currently in my apartment in Saginaw, Michigan. I work with Lisa and Lori with Families Against Narcotics, and that's what brings me here today.
Thank you. And a strength?
Oh, yeah. I would say I have a strength in being able to hold a conversation with just about anyone. I think I'm very much a talker, so.
Great. Thank you. And will you pass it off to somebody, please? Thank you.
I'll pass it to Lori.
Great.
Lori Zlokowski.
Good morning, everybody. It's so nice to see all of you. I'm going to try to turn my camera on here as well. I am an associate professor at Delta College. That's my day job, but then I also am the regional director for Families Against Narcotics in the Great Lakes Bay region, which is Bay, Saginaw, and Midland area. I started a fan chapter here in our area coming up on 3 years ago, and I did a lot of work on campus prior to that regarding substance use disorders. My proudest accomplishment is I'm a mom of a daughter who's now 4.5 years in recovery from a 4-year IV heroin battle. And it's never something that we thought would touch our lives, but yet it did. And she's doing really well after a really long fought battle and a daily one. And so we want to help get that recovery for everybody else. So I start various programs here like Hope Not Handcuffs. So I work with Lisa, family recovery coaches. We just started a quick response team in Saginaw and Midland, where a police officer, peer recovery coach, and family recovery coach goes back to an overdose and talks to that person who nearly died, and we help get those people into treatment. I'm working with Louise to become an RE member so we can get more going on campus, even if it's virtually for right now. I'm working with Jessica Miller with CMU and 1016 Network to try to get some more recovery services so we can be recovery inclusive campus at Delta.
Thank you so much, Lori. And a strength? There's so many strengths.
Oh, a strength? I'm resilient.
You are. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing all that. Thank you. Will you please pass it off to somebody? Thanks, Lori. Thanks for being here.
I don't know that I'm seeing everybody on my screen. Let me see who, if I can remember who I haven't. How about Harwa?
There we go.
Thanks, Lori. My name is Hara Ahmed. I work for Prevention Network as the Michigan Higher Education Network program coordinator. I am currently Zooming from Howell, Michigan, so I'm in the Brighton area as well. For my apartment, and a strength of mine that I'm leaning on right now is my empathy. I'm a pretty empathetic person, and I think that people can rely on me to kind of talk through things and things like that right now. So I will go ahead and pass it off to Raven.
Hi all, my name is Raven Rooney, and I am a student here at Michigan State University, as well as the Recovery Housing Support Specialist. I use pronouns she and her, and I am calling in from my dorm room right now on campus. Very interesting experience, of course. And then probably my biggest strength would be my ability to be flexible, as prior to COVID, I would not say that that was a strength of mine, So with all of the bad that's going on, I would say that I'm really able to move things around and plan again and continue that cycle. So thanks for letting me introduce myself, and I'm glad to be here.
Thanks, Raven. We've got Pam, Jessica, and Terry just to help you out on who's left, I think.
Thank you. I was trying to look at everyone. Go ahead, Pam.
All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm not sure if you can see my video. Can you?
We can. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
I am coming to you from my basement in the big metropolis of Mayo, Michigan. I am a counselor and academic advisor at Kirtland Community College, which is in Grayling. So I'm about a half an hour east of where I work. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and my strengths that have been challenged lately are organization and processes. That's where I'm most comfortable, when I know the order and the expectations of things. So I have been very challenged in these 6 months, working from home, getting new students in, and helping students in the counseling aspect. So I'm working on flexibility.
Great, thank you.
And I think you said Terry.
I did.
Okay, Terry, take it away. Oh, wait.
Good morning.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? I may stop my video if my internet goes crazy because it's not that great where I'm at.
Understand.
So if I go away, I'm still here.
Perfect, thank you. Terry, good morning.
Good morning. She, her, hers is my pronouns. Like somebody else said, there may be some slight adaptability challenges because we have first, third, and fifth grade going in my house right now. We are out in the very far northwest of northern Michigan, about 85 miles west of Marquette and about 65 miles east of Houghton on the Huron Bay. I work for Keweenaw Bay Ojibwa Community College, where I am their behavioral health and wellness person.
Thank
And I
you.
think that's
Terry,
it.
you got a strength there would you would like to share with us? Or could you please share a strength of yours with us?
Adaptability at this point.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you.
I think Jessica was last.
Yeah, did Jessica, were you able to, can you hear us? Can you join us? Okay, she might have something else going on. I'm gonna assume she made an assumption there. All right. Hey, thanks. You know, that always takes time, and when I'm halfway through, I'm always like, oh, take the time to do that, but it's so important always. But with this smaller group, I think it's helpful to get everybody's name in there and hear your voices all together. So at least on a screen together, you all at least get to speak once, right? So we at least get to hear you. And for those of you who like to engage differently, there'll be other opportunities for that. But so thank you for that, and get to really hear the collective passion and commitment that you have in this work. And that's really what stood out for me. And a couple other things stood out for me as well through all of that, which is really about how some of you have mentioned some strengths that, you know, you didn't have but are working for you, or things that were a challenge before are suddenly becoming strengths of yours during this time. So some different themes emerging already. And here's what I'm going to ask us all to do here. We're going to break out in breakouts for a little bit, and we're going to have 5 minutes. So we're going to keep it tight and short. But Hara's going to put us in groups of 2s or 3s, however the breakout room goes out with 15 or however many of us there are in here. And I would like you each to have the conversation, but I would like the listener to first ask, how are you doing? And what is tell me a story about your strength. How's it getting you through? Like, tell me a story about that. Right? So you all named a strength. You got to think of a strength, and maybe you'll share a story. But I really want you to ask the person, how are you doing? In a way that you really want to hear the answer. I would like the listener to listen with love and attention. Don't speak, don't jump in there. Just let your partner know you are listening. How do you do that? Well, you'll tell me. And then, this is all out of order. Okay, what is happening? I took out a section here. I took out something, so it messed up my order. Okay, so when the speaker is done, this is all out of order. Sorry, I last minute tweak and then it messed the whole thing up. When the speaker's done speaking, telling their story, the listener just reflect back what you heard. So I heard you share that you have a passion for your work, and here's a story where you showed that passion. Do I have that correct? And then you'll switch partners. Sound good? What questions do you have? Great. All right, Hara, do it up. Let's give us 5 minutes, please. Can you do that and set a timer at the same time? All right, so you got 5 minutes. Your time. A timer may be up in the corner, it may not. I don't know how it's going to be set up.
So I'll go ahead and time it on my phone, and then you guys will get a 1 minute warning when you have 1 minute left. So we'll go ahead and break you out into rooms right now.
Make a new friend, and there you go.
Okay, I have a quick question. This is Karen. So 5 minutes for both of us, or 5 minutes each in the
5
pair?
minutes collective for both of you. So you get just
Yeah.
just a few minutes, how are you in, 2 minutes or so. And how you're using a strength to get you through. All right, let's do it up. You got 5 minutes, go for it.
All right.
Ugh. I have everybody in the breakout room right now for 5 minutes.
No. Lisa, did you get kicked out?
Maybe?
What was that?
I think I was in room 5.
And you were just by yourself?
No, I was with Terry.
And she got moved to room 6. Okay, I think that was my fault. So sorry.
No, because I thought it was my internet too, because it kept showing up unstable. And I'm like, this is what I run into because I'm kind of in the country. It's like, it's not working.
I looked at the room and it said Terry was by herself. So I was like, oh, let me move her. But then it showed that you were in there. So
Yeah.
maybe it like cut out for a second. So sorry.
Okay, no, that's no problem.
And it's my first time running a webinar. So it's also.
Oh, you're awesome. I'm so happy that you're in the position you are with us. I think it's awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. It's been insane. Just my turnaround from college to here. So
Yeah, I bet. But you gotta be feeling like totally amazing.
I'm just incredibly happy. I can't even.
Yeah.
I mean, the mini grant was such an experience. I can't even begin to explain.
Yeah.
And now I'm so happy that Prevention Network has decided to keep me to run the Michigan Higher Education Network. So it's been so amazing.
Yeah.
I can't speak on it.
That's
enough.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really happy. Well, I'm gonna get my video out and I gotta go answer an email real fast.
Grace, take your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love when we get like transported back. It's so awkward. I am the facilitator and my mic is on, so I'm going to take advantage of that and just finish the last sentence, Christina, I'm really glad you're here too, and thank you for doing what you're doing to make it work. So however you need to engage, and thank you. All right, wow. I know it's just 5 minutes, and if we had more time, but that's part of the point here. Where's my PowerPoint? Here it is. All right, let's debrief that for a moment or two. Did you feel listened to, and how? So just unmute yourself and jump in there. In what ways did you feel listened to, if you felt listened to?
I'll start. So I was in a room with Jordan, and she did a great job of listening to what I said and reflecting back some of the feelings and rephrasing it in a new way that was not just exactly what I said back. And so that felt really great.
Thanks, Louise. So the reflection of what you said back and through a different lens and coming at you in a different voice with a little bit different slant on it. Dare I step out on a limb and say was empowering and helpful?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Other people, did you feel listened to? How, in what ways did you feel listened to?
This is Karen. So I was paired with Dawn, and we know each other, so that was helpful in making us each other comfortable. But I thought, I don't know, just watching Dawn, looking at Dawn while I was talking, I could tell that she was listening. And then after, when she was reflecting, not only did she reflect back what I said, but somehow she weaved in empathy into that and normalized, you know, what I was experiencing. So that's pretty awesome.
Great. So you got some nonverbals through this flat screen that helped you know that you were being connected with. And your partner, Dawn, was able to reflect back some empathy and was able to hold that space so beautifully and passionately for you.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll take one more as I just drive across my room to shut my air conditioner off. One more, please. Come on. Oh, now it's quiet. Yes.
This is Lori. I'll hop in. I was Pam, and we had another person join us, and we just didn't have enough time.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think Pam really could identify when I was talking about my experience and said that, you know, I have felt very helpless, and she hit the nail right on the head.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else's feeling, but I think she did a really good job of identifying. Sometimes when somebody's in the middle of a struggle, it's hard to put a word. And so I really appreciated that. I felt like she not only heard me, but she felt me.
So good. Thank you. Yes, thank you. And I've already made a note to myself that we definitely need more breakout time. I thought we were going to have 2. Some groups had 3. That made it an extra challenge. And then do things slightly different so we have a little bit more time in the breakout room. So thank you for that. That's just helpful to acknowledge. Thank you. So what was it like to, there's like 2 questions here. What was it like to tell somebody how you're doing? And what was it like to be asked how you were doing? So maybe that's the first question. What was it like to feel, what was it like to be asked? And then what was it like to actually tell somebody how you're doing?
I can go. So I was paired with Karen, and I think it was really helpful that when I was asked how I'm doing, like I felt like she cared, like she was giving me all the nonverbals, like really trying to listen, giving me opportunities to expand upon what I was saying. And so for me, it felt empowering to continue talking.
Great. Thank you. So you felt really like somebody really wanted to know how you're doing, and you were picking up the nonverbals, so you were able to really share. Thank you. Somebody else?
I can go, Diane.
Thanks, Pam.
So as helpers, and I shared this with Lori, as helpers, we are always the ones, the listeners, and then maybe giving ideas or, you know, reflecting back to people. And I shared with Lori, I'm not doing as well as I thought I would be in September 2020 working remotely.
Yeah.
And that was hard for me to say, I realized. So, but it also, in the saying of it, and even though I felt like we were in a time zone warp, we got shuffled away, we didn't get to finish, I could feel myself just a little bit freer because I said it. Somebody knows, you know, so just being able to share is important. And it reminds me how important our work as helpers can be to other people, to just listen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And all that you're saying, thank you for entering in here. You know, there's this quote, my supervisor uses this quote, I actually do not know who Cheryl Richardson is or what Incredible Joy is, but to cite it properly, maybe I will look up this book because this quote comes from her, and I don't know if it's a poem, a book, a story, but just to give proper credit, people start to heal the moment they feel heard. And it's so important. We are, you know, and it's so important to create the space, particularly for us helpers who are holding space for so many people. Look at all y'all who have like kids on Zoom doing this weird new thing. You've got first graders and some of you have multiple kids in multiple rooms doing this thing. And how in the heck can any of us be doing totally good and fine, you know, no matter what our situation is, like no matter what our situation is, right? Like every situation has ginormous challenges these days and is taking a huge toll on our mental health in all of these different ways. And wow, when we are just asked, and Pam, you really said it so beautifully, like just taking a moment to be asked, to have a breath, to be able to have a space to say how you're doing, that's going to be held with love and empathy and passion, it creates a little bit more space. You know what, I gotta say, like, if we get to nothing else this whole time, like this is the heart of what we're talking about here. It really is. So, you know, this is what it is. We can't be present for our students if we're not present for ourselves and our family. And how much energy do we have to give? And if we are struggling like this, how in the world do we think our students are doing? How many of you have connected with students and have had some conversations with students? Yeah, how are they doing? Yeah, Carrie's shaking her head. No, like, yeah, how are your students doing that you're connecting with? Tell me.
They're struggling.
Yeah. Struggling. Don and I work with many of the same students, but they're really struggling. I think especially when you look at students that are in recovery or trying to navigate these pieces, that isolation part is huge.
Yeah.
Many of them are back in homes that might not be very supportive or conducive of that process. They're very disconnected, they're very bored. So even my students that are not in recovery but are navigating relationships around substances, that use has skyrocketed. They're bored, they don't know what to do. That's how they're making connections with people that they might be physically around but not necessarily have relationships with. So it's really hard right now. I feel like the work is the hardest that it's ever been, at least for me personally. Even from when I worked in a methadone clinic and did treatment and all those sorts of stuff, like this feels way harder on so many levels. And it's hard to see our students struggling, really hard.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm getting lots of yes, that it's the same. And, you know, if we think about the stories that you shared with each other and what we're hearing just from the, 15 of us or so on the screen here, we're hearing some collective themes and collective situations and collective struggles, right? We're also hearing some collective strengths that people are using to get through, and some hidden strengths that people didn't know they had, and some like superpowers that people are tapping into. And, I usually work with some of the students that you work with, right? The students struggling with substances. And I've also been working on a couple other projects with some student leaders, students that I don't typically get a chance to work with. Some high students, no, those are who I usually work with, but some like students, those type A type students who are student leaders in all these ways. And that's not to say students who are struggling with substances aren't high achievers and can't be leaders. They're just, it's a different grouping of students, right? So, so I'm working with these orientation leaders, and they are struggling, right? So like our, most active, engaged student leaders who don't typically struggle in the same way that our substance using students are struggling, and they're showing up on Zooms drinking, and they're like high, and they can't figure out how to manage their time and their classes, and like, oh my gosh, right? So we have some, we are needed, and we have some work to do. Yeah, oh please, yes.
Yeah, I had some really helpful advice that was given to me. I listened to a student panel of student leaders who have joined the a national collegiate leadership academy, and so like these are students in recovery who like are above and beyond. And one of the really helpful things that they said is that right now just saving space for them is helpful, and that what they would recommend now versus the beginning of the coronavirus is way different. Like right now and they've been very disconnected themselves. Usually the most engaged and connected students are now very disconnected themselves. And so something that was really important for me to hear is that just continuing to hold space for those students and offer support for when they're ready to re-engage was really helpful for me.
Thank you. That's really helpful to hear, and great input from students, right? And how important when we just hold the space. It's not just that just is a filler. There's nothing just about holding space for people and inviting people in, and when they're ready for them to enter. We'll be talking about, you know, in whatever time we have left here. I did a presentation for the College of Nursing. I do some work with them and some expert work with them and get to train them. And it's really an awesome collaborative for the last bunch of years. And I worked with in a class, and I did a little research on therapeutic communication, because that's what I was asked to talk about, like use MI and expert within their therapeutic communication class. And I came across this definition and stuff and differences, which I just started adding in these presentations because it really made sense, like totally nails what we're trying to do here, right? So when communication, kind of the exchange of information where messages are simultaneously sent and received verbally and non-verbally, right? We're talking, I'm picking up on your non-verbals as best I can over the screen, and we're exchanging information, we're communicating. Therapeutic communication and what motivational interviewing is, and what you all do, is intentionally using our verbal and nonverbal communications for the purpose of advancing somebody's physical and emotional well-being. I forgot to change patient to student, but you get the point here. The focus is on the student's need. I'm gonna intentionally communicate with the person based on their needs, which means I may talk differently from student to student to student. And that skilled use of these techniques really help emphasize with the student. And in some of our cases where we're really trying to enhance behavior change, so are the nurses. How do we use these different skills and techniques to help somebody make different behavior change? So that's really the groundwork for what we're talking about. I will say, and I'm going to share this resource. I'm going to share it in the chat. I have things to share in the chat with you, if and that I have here. I do. I have here unshow. If I unshow, no, good, okay. I have a link to the presentation if you're the type of person that wants the presentation. Here it is. I will put I'm using Google Drive because I don't know, I figured out that might be okay, that's to the presentation. I should have linked it. I should have told you that was to the presentation. And this, I'm trying this out. You can tell me how these Google things work. And here's to an article, and then we'll keep going from here. I am not ashamed to tell you that I was in a meeting. I was in a meeting with my supervisor and a couple other people, and we were going, and we were kind of spinning, trying to get some work done in a rushed way. And my boss, who is a psychologist, stopped us and said, hold on a second, we are kind of spinning out of control here. Let's just check in. How are you doing? And I was like, no, do not stop. Because if you ask me how I'm doing, I can't stop it. I can't stop the flood that's about to come. And the only way I could keep that flood down is by drinking coffee and talking a mile a minute and getting on that train, right? But she stopped us, and I couldn't. I'm a cancer, so moon, sun, rising, whatever, is a Cancer. So I look tough, but the emotions came. So that was a good time. And, you know, I was met with love and compassion, and a couple of meetings down the road, somebody else in that meeting cried. So, okay. So I didn't feel so alone, but she sent me this article, and I put it in the chat. She sent me this article around like, hey, you know, you feel like you're doing crappy, but you're actually doing okay. These are hard times. So hang in there, and you're not alone in this. And, you know, I was able to share this because it was written by a man. I didn't know it was written by a man when I read it. And then when I was checking in with a colleague who lives across the country, and when we worked together on something, and I'm like, dude, are you okay? Like, you don't sound so good. How are you? And he told me how he was doing, and he was a man. And I was like, oh, I felt really honored that he was telling me how I was doing. And I was able to share this and say, like, dude, this is written by a guy. So like, bro out together and get some support, right? Because we need it. So I share that with you because it was helpful to me.
The COVID-19 pandemic,
Who's talking?
in a recent opinion piece
Okay.
published in the journal.
Okay. What I want to do is we're going to take a break in a few minutes, but I want to lay some of the groundwork for more of what we're doing this afternoon and why we're talking about motivational interviewing and how things have changed and whatnot and what SBIRT is and what we're doing. I had to do this presentation kind of at the beginning of COVID, like at the beginning of the end of the spring semester last year. I did this PowerPoint and I narrated it because I really wanted to stay on time. And as you can see, I sometimes need help staying on time. So I narrated this. And I tried this with a couple of other trainings that I did, and it seemed to work to just lay some of the foundation. So I'm going to share with you a couple of slides that are narrated just to use a different method of presentation and to keep it tight and concise. Does that sound cool that we'll try that out? Great, thanks. If it's not cool, just go to the bathroom. All right, fabulous. Now I'll play it.
The COVID-19 pandemic remains a rapidly evolving situation. As the days unfold into weeks and weeks into months, the impacts of the virus and of social distancing, combined with the uncertainty of the future, is having an impact on our national mental health. As many people are reporting high levels of emotional distress, experts are warning us of an emerging mental health crisis. In a recent opinion piece published in the Journal of American Medical Association, Sandro Gala, a professor at the Boston University School of Public Health, warned of an upcoming wave of mental disorders because of coronavirus. He noted that large-scale disasters, whether traumatic, natural, or environmental, are almost always accompanied by increases in depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, substance use disorder, a broad range of other mental and behavioral disorders, domestic violence, and child abuse, and that the COVID-19 pandemic would likely produce a similar overflow of mental illness. It is becoming alarmingly clear that we need a way to assess the health and well-being of our students and provide appropriate interventions and resources quickly. And that brings me to SBIRT, screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment, and how we can have a collective impact on the overall well-being of our campus through the utilization of this approach. Technically speaking, SBIRT is a comprehensive, integrated public health approach to the delivery of early interventions and treatment services for people with substance use disorders and those at risk for developing them. It is an evidence-based practice used to identify, reduce, and prevent risky, excessive, unhealthy, and harmful use of substances. The beauty of SBIRT is that this approach can be used to support any unhealthy or harmful habit. We are seeking to quickly identify students in need and offer support and resources in a consistent manner across campus. As we start to grapple with the pandemic's psychological fallout, this approach could prove helpful in providing a structure to identify and support high-risk students, whatever September brings. To break down SBIRT just a little further, the first step is to screen or ask questions, open-ended strategic questions that quickly assesses where a student is at in terms of their general well-being or more specific areas of focus such as substance use or mental health. And then provide a brief intervention, which in its simplest form is a conversation. In this model, it is a focused conversation guided toward increasing a person's awareness in their general well-being or whatever you are asking about, and encouraging healthy changes. The next step is referral to treatment. This sounds way more clinical than what most of us will be working with on a daily level. For our purposes, it may be more relevant to say referral to resources, which is offering students other appropriate resources based on your conversation and what they disclose to you. It can range from offering them another time to check in with you, or referring them to a peer support program or to peer wellness coaching. It could be referring them to their advisor or to suggest a website or a reading for them to check out. It may be referring them to the evolving programs being developed within the Wellbeing Access and Prevention Cluster, as well as other programs and supports being developed throughout campus. And of course, it could be a referral to CCPH. We are seeking to create more opportunities for students to feel heard and cared for. We seek to take an integrated and comprehensive approach to our student conversations, so we are all working together as a team and build off of each other's conversations. A key component to this approach is the use of motivational interviewing, which is a collaborative conversation style to elicit behavior change by strengthening a person's own motivation to change. Essential to these conversations is to create a non-judgmental, non-confrontational, supportive environment where we can assist students in making changes by increasing their healthy behaviors and decreasing their unhealthy behaviors. We're working to develop various modalities for students to reflect on their overall health and well-being, which will highlight both their self-efficacy and resilience, as well as may direct them towards more focused assessments and supports. Well, this model and all that I've talked about so far builds on the skills and talents you all already have. It provides a structure for us to screen for students in need and provide interventions and support through these conversations. Together, we can take an integrated approach and reach many more students. The skills and techniques of motivational interviewing will assist each of us in having difficult conversations with students and provide grounding and confidence in handling whatever students bring up and disclose.
Okay, that sets some of the stage here in a concise manner. So thoughts, questions, comments, the floor is open.
Something I was recently pondering is that how motivational interviewing has become so key in many different approaches I don't know what to call it. So in being a peer recovery coach, in wellness coaching, in basics, and other brief interventions like ESPER. So it's been interesting to me that, and I don't know if research has been done on this, but the kind of the link that I anecdotally see across many of these research-based effective approaches is motivational interviewing.
I couldn't have put in a more positive plug for MI myself. Thank you. Really, seriously. I'm a full disclosure. I have a hammer and everything's a nail. I have a hammer and everything's MI. When I use these skills and techniques in the spirit of motivational interviewing in all aspects of my life, everything goes better. It just does. When I am eliciting suggestions for my daughter for how to solve her problems that we have and not get into power conflicts, because I ain't ever going to win those. I know she's 5, but I still am never going to win them. When I can use these skills and techniques, it goes so much better. When I seek to understand, particularly my partner, let me tell you, that goes better. You know, so when I'm using these skills and techniques, I am a much better supervisor, much better supervisor. It comes a little bit easier to me when I'm working with students. It turns out, and it's a little bit harder when I work with when I remember to use it with my daughter. Boom! Oh, it works so well. When I have to force myself to really dig in and remember with my partner, it works well, but it's harder. It's harder. So you are totally setting the beautiful stage for, yeah, this stuff works in so many ways, just as a communication kind of strategy, skill, way of being. So thank you for that. That's right on. Thank you. Other comments? Hold on. I was I was made aware of a article that was just posted in Inside Higher Ed. I'm going to post that in the chat for you all, if you, for your reference, around suicide and suicide prevention, and the real nature of what our students are struggling with here again. This was done, like I said, this presentation and this text I wrote and did in the spring, where, you know, research is showing, here it is. Research is showing that, you know, with any sort of disaster, natural, pandemic wise, we have some increases in all of those things, and in substance use, which you are seeing amongst the students who already struggle with substance use, right? And depression and anxiety. And we are seeing that. We're seeing that just within the 15 of us on this call here, right? We're seeing that with our colleagues, with our family members, with our students, and that the pandemic is increasing suicide ideation within our college students. And we need to be on high alert of this. We knew this was coming, and now we've got some data to really point to that. The data are the latest in a series of reports highlighting increase in anxiety, depression, suicide ideation since this pandemic began. Upwards of 25%, this article says 25% of our 18 to 24-year-olds are saying that they had seriously considered suicide. We got some struggling people on our hands here that we need to reach out to and support in the best ways that we can. So how do we do that? Well, you know, the answer is simply not simple, but the answer is figuring out how to work your screen here. But the answer is through connection. Connection. It's through screening, it's through finding those students, it's through having mechanisms to talk to those students, it's having mechanisms to reach out, it's having mechanisms to reach them where they are. I don't know about y'all, but I'm having a heck of a time getting students to voluntarily come to these awesome programs. I've worked my ass off for 6 months to set up and had to pivot and then pivot again. I'm exhausted, and I still haven't gotten this like particular project off the ground, and I've worked my tail off on it. But how do I get students to come to it? They need it. Once they come to it, they will benefit greatly from it. But I've got to figure out how to get them there. One of the good things we have going for us, like for the basics program, is that they have to come. They're mandated. They've got to show up. If they don't, we put a hold on, right? So, we get them there. Your recovery students, perhaps you have mechanisms to get them there. So once we can get them there, how do we connect and tap into what is really important? How do we ask them how they're doing? How do we build on their resiliency? How do we build on their strengths? And how do we provide resources? And it's cold in my room here. I'm putting on my cashmere sweater. So really it's connection, and let us not lose sight of the importance of that. I mean, social isolation, loneliness, before this pandemic, there's all sorts of research out there that shows that how unhealthy being disconnected is. When students are not connected to their college experience, when they're not connected with others and have connections, their retention rates are much lower. They're much likely not to graduate. They have higher depression, anxiety, suicidality rates. What it does physically to our bodies when we do not have good social connection is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's almost a pack a day, which I don't know who can afford that anymore. I'm a former quitter, so I say this with love. And if smoking weren't bad, I'd be smoking right now with you if it didn't really mess up my health. So I'm saying that with love, but what it does to our bodies, we know what it does to our health wise, and yet I still smoked anyway. Yay for the addictive brain. But not being connected, I mean, that is huge. So how do we use these moments that we have with students to really ask them how they are doing and hold space with love and empathy? And that is the greatest gift we can give each other and our students at this time. I don't know about you, but I'm going to ask you about you, but our basics sessions, you know, particularly in the spring semester, it changed. We were focused on how are you doing? Where are you living? How is it going? You went home from spring break and didn't know when you were coming back to the university, and it turned out you weren't really coming back. How the heck are you doing? You didn't sign up for remote learning. How are you doing? For some students, it was great. They loved it. It worked really well. For others, it's terrible and not working well at all. Having that space for students to have those conversations. We also met students in small groups, like however we got them on the screen. Amazing things happen. These are highest risk. These are our highest risk students. These are heavy drinkers, heavy marijuana smokers that we were able to get on a screen in the springtime, and they were able to answer the question openly of how they were doing and then share tips with each other. Like the need for connection is big. And they're telling us, you know, they're different use patterns because of being with family and pandemic and stuff. So so I'm throwing that out there to be like, we have to shift all of our work and how we're doing. Of course, we're going to talk about substances in our conversations, but we're also going to, you know, it's part of the larger whole, right? So, so providing these opportunities are big. I'm going to leave space for some comments on that before we take a break. All right, we're at a point where I think we need a little break. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. In that break for a second, hold on, wait, not this. Hold on. In this break, here's a new thing I'm going to try. If you want to try with me, I would love for you to. If you don't, hey, that's fine. No problem. It's invite. I did set up a poll everywhere, trying it out. There are 2 ways to join. You can put in, if you have charges might apply if you do it on your phone and text wise. Brought up somebody on my staff very interestingly. So just know that there's 2 ways. You can put in this link, which I'll put in the chat in a second when I'm done talking. So I don't think charges apply that way. So I'll put in this website so you could click that in your browser and answer the question once I make it active. Or if you have a cell phone, I did it backwards when I first did it. So when I go to a text, in the to section, you put 37607. You put that in the to, and then you're texting Diane Fedorch 434 in the little where the message would be. And that's how you register. And then I'll activate the question. We'll see how it works. Okay, hold on. All right, and I'll put this back up in a second, but I'm gonna put this website in the chat. Okay, so you have that. So good. I'm going to, y'all are so patient, so good. I'm going to, I'm going to activate this. Oh, that's so good. And then we will see what happens while we take 5. Is 5 minutes an okay amount of time? I see a few heads nodding, so I'm going to go with the nodding heads that 5 is okay. Back to screen share. And I'm just going to do the desktop, I think. Then you can see my messy desktop, but it has everything we need. Okay. Okay. Now, hopefully you're in there. And then, I don't know. And the question here is, what are you doing for self-care? And we'll see if it works. In the meantime, let's take 5. Good? All right, I'm gonna set a timer. And if you want to talk amongst yourselves too, unmute yourself, find a friend, talk. Or Whew, all right. Came back right as my alarm went off. All right. Hi, everyone. Everyone attending to kids and everything. All right. See if I missed anything in the chat here. Poor Lisa's getting kicked off. I know, so many technical issues. Okay, let's see. Whoop, whoop. Let's do that. Where is this situation? Let's see, does this work? It's, oh, okay, let's see. How does that work now? All right, 4 of you got in on Poll Everywhere. That's cool. I'm down with that. We'll see how that works. Now what happens? I don't know. Let's see. Did I activate it? I did, right? Okay, then if I unactivate it. Oh, keep it activated. Oh, I could do that. Look at that. Oh, okay. All right, are y'all coming back or am I talking to myself? Either's fine. I don't mind talking to myself.
I'm here.
Oh, thank you. Oh, hi, Dawn. Who do you got there? Hi.
I'm here.
The sick baby, waiting for the husband to finish his little break too.
Oh, hi, baby. Sorry you don't feel good, kiddo. Oh. All right. Yes, babies, kids, dogs, whatever you got, cats, gerbils, whoever comes to the screen, it's all good. My kid joined a Zoom one day broke into the Zoom. She was sitting watching her little book app, reading her book app and watching a video, and had a really fun fact about sea cucumbers that she just needed to tell us. And it was that sea cucumbers breathe through their butts. Now, I really did think that was a worthy break into the Zoom meeting for her, because that was a good fact, and it turns out to be true. I did fact check her, and she was correct. Sea cucumbers are fascinating little creatures. Okay, look, this little Wordle thing worked here. I did ask you what you do to take care of yourselves, and this is important. It's important. I don't know how these Wordles here, how well they link up, but we've got husband and cooking and walking and playing and running, walking, and additional walks and using time going outside, and something about commute, but it's probably, I don't know what that is. I miss my commute. It's the only alone time I used to have, and now that's gone too. Additional time. So it's important for us to think about what do we do for self-care, and what gets dropped when you're so busy. I can't help but point out that we all use she, her pronouns on this call here. And the impact of of gender and sexism on our lives, and the roles that we play, and how much everyone is holding in all of the different ways. And where self-care may get dropped off the list a little bit. Remember when you used to be able to fly, or when you were able to fly more easily, they would always say to put that mask on yourself before the little one next to you, so you were actually able to help the little one next to you, right? If you're like, if that question of self-care came up and you were like, kind of like me, it's good to what do other people do? Maybe I can take a little walk for myself, or breathe, or drink an extra cup of coffee, or I don't know, I have to wake up a little bit, or I go to bed really. Somebody shared about going to bed later. I'm having that issue too. It's because it's the only quiet time I get, so I just then binge watch TV because it just gets my mind off, and then I'm tired in the morning. But it is some self-care, and it's escape. And so thank you for all that. All right, let's see. Thanks for joining me in trying this out. We'll have another one we'll have another one perhaps coming up. I don't know. I had a couple planned, but we'll see what we got. All right. Basics. Let's jump there. I primed the pump a little bit for motivational interviewing, but let us go to basics. I don't know. Usually on these calls, there's some people who do basics, some people who don't. Who can help us out here and just give a nutshell of what basics is, so we're on the same page with that. And all of this will be relevant whether you do basics or not. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about basics as well. So who could tell us what that is? Am I making another assumption? Are any of you doing basics? Oh my gosh, look at that. I'm going to point out something, because I'm going to use this time to point this out, is around silence and the use of silence. And this keeps coming up in all of my presentations lately too, and it's also more imperative around Zoom to talk about this. So I encourage everybody to lean into whatever level of uncomfortability or comfortability you have with silence. And if it is something that you are uncomfortable with, I just encourage you to practice it some and to lean into the uncomfortability-ness of silence. Silence is powerful, particularly when we're having the types of conversations that we have with students, when we're helping people make change. When we're helping people come to some sort of ambivalence and resolve their ambivalence and like be confronted with this like thing, this change, this thing going on in our lives, there's usually a lot going on. And for some of us, we have quicker or slower processing times. We have different abilities of like wanting to share, or comfortabilities of wanting to share. And a lot is usually happening in these brains of ours. So the use of silence is really powerful, and just letting people have a moment and letting our students have a moment to kind of process what's happening, and asking a question and just letting the silence hang there for a moment. A couple of things will happen. I mean, I use silence. Sometimes we use silence too when we don't know what to say. Has anybody joined me in the experience of being with somebody, whether it's a student, whether it's somebody I'm advising, whether it's somebody I'm supervising, whether it's a partner or a kid, that they just did not know what to say? Am I alone in this, or do I have company? I have company. Thank you. One great strategy, thank you for the thumbs and the nods. Yeah, one great strategy, on Zoom, is to pretend you're frozen. Gives you a great moment to to think of something to say. It's really great. But all kidding aside, to use that silence, because one of two things will happen. They will break it and have something brilliant to say, or not, but they'll break it and you'll know what to say next. Or you will know what to say. If we could just give our brains a chance to just like be in that silence for a minute. I've had moments, and a lot of you working with recovery students and stuff. So I'm using some 12-step language or whatever, using some 12-step language around, like, there's moments where I pray, I'm like, please let the next thing to say come in. Use me as a vessel of your love, right? Like, and I'm like literally praying for the knowledge of the next thing to say. And that silence really does help. So I'm either going to know the next thing, or they're going to break it. So silence is powerful. On Zoom, I mean, how many of you are like, I'm going to unmute and you can't get the button or whatever? So we do have to like give an extra period of time. So it's using the silence just to give people an extra moment to break in on Zoom, to find that unmute button, and also to like take the risk. It's almost a bigger risk to break in on Zoom than in a face-to-face meeting, I find. So that silence is really an invitation to do that and to break in. Okay, so I interrupted my question for that public service announcement and suggestions. Back to, who could tell us? Oh, no, back to, y'all don't do basics. None of you are doing basics, right? Okay. I made an assumption, and there we go. I'm going to tell you then what it is in a nutshell, and we will not spend time on it. I'm going to tell you because you're like, what the hell are you talking about? BASICS is an acronym. It stands for Brief Alcohol Screening and Intervention for College Students. It was designed out at the University of Washington about 30 years ago. Dr. Alan Marlatt, who's no longer with us, he is in the spirit world, as my daughter would call it. He is in the spirit world. But him and a team of researchers really took a bunch of theories together and a bunch of concepts together to put together what is the gold standard of intervention that we could provide our college students with right now. It has 30 years of research that says, hey, if you have a conversation in this particular way, it will help elicit behavior change. So BASICS is a 2-session intervention that really helps reduce drinking measures across all measures. Blood alcohol level, peak, typical, numbers of drinks, numbers of times they drink, numbers of negative consequences they experience. I said blood alcohol level already. It is designed to be non-judgmental and non-confrontational. Hey, that's what you all do, right? You have conversations with students that are non-judgmental and non-confrontational. If you're using motivational interviewing or some other theory behind you, then you're using an evidence-based practice, and BASICS is an evidence-based practice. It does use motivational interviewing, and it does appeal to the drives and motivations of students because, well, it's all about them. It is a type of intervention that is a conversation about change, which is a lot of your conversations. Your conversations are minimal interactions, correct? Your conversations can last several minutes to several sessions with students. So you could be supporting students in an hour and a half an hour and a 15-minute check-in, or perhaps you see students over a longer period of time, all with the context of helping to support them and help them make some change. Again, it's about, I love this mouse, except, you know, when you do have a mouse infestation in your house, we kind of live in an area where the mice come in the wintertime to get warm, and people tend to have these little rodents running through their houses at times. This picture takes on a whole new meaning when you actually have this happening in your basement. Anyway, this poor little mouse, though, they found a little helmet to get the cheese. So instead of, they've got some protective factors where now they put the helmet on and they're just going to get a concussion. And that's what we're trying to do for our students, harm reduction. We also know for some students, they try harm reduction. Hey, here's some strategies: lower your drinks, count your drinks, do this, limit your money. Yeah, I don't know about your students, but I tried that back in the day. That junks didn't work for me. So for some of our students, it's not going to work, and abstinence is what is needed. For a majority of our students, they will benefit from behavior changes and from harm reduction approaches. I also want to say harm reduction does include the option of not to drink, right? That is absolutely a strategy. So motivational interviewing, it's a conversation about change. All right, I want you to do this for me. I would like you please to think of a change that you have wanted to make, or you're in the process of making, or that you did make. Actually think of a change, just any change. Without sharing the change, could you, a handful of you, please share with me how long it took you to make that change? Take yourself off mute and shout it out there.
A few months.
A few months, thank you.
Years.
Years, thank you.
Haven't made it yet.
Haven't made it yet, still in process. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty and your willingness to just throw it out there. It's really important to note, because why do we expect our students to make change like after one conversation with us? Or in a semester? When I talk to providers, doctors and nurses about this and help them do screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment and use motivational interviewing, I ask them, I'm like, hey, you know, like, what do you want? Like if your patients would just fill in the blank, what would you want them to do? Right? Oh, it was fascinating. And they were like, if they just listened to us, if they just used condoms, if they just stopped drinking, I think if they just listened to us, came up a couple of times when last time I did this with some providers. I'm like, right, if I just listen to you, because you're the expert, you know all about everything, don't you? But when I did this with them and I asked them their change and how long it took them to make change, and then I asked them, well, how can you expect your patients then to just flip the switch and make the change after one 10-minute conversation with you all? It blew their mind. They were like, whoa. I was like, mic drop, walk out of the room at that moment. That was all that was needed for that conversation, right? All right, so let me see here. So would one of you be willing to tell us a change that you are kind of in process of making, and be willing to engage in a role play? And one won't go so well and the other is designed to hopefully go well. Would somebody be willing to do that risk with us?
I can do it with you, Diane.
Okay, you're good. I can do it if you want to.
Raven, go ahead.
Okay.
All right, Raven, so you're going to do this. So Raven, you're going to, thank you, and thank you, Tahara, too, for jumping in there as well. So Raven, you're going to tell us a change that you're wanting to make, and we're all going to think about all of the things that you should do and all of the advice we have for you and how it will work, okay? And then we're just going to bombard the heck out of you with that.
Got it.
Okay,
so
so
one thing that I've been focusing on changing right now, I just set a 10-week goal for myself, is lowering my academic stress. Because my whole life is around school, so trying to lower that academic stress.
All right, so Raven, we're gonna help you right now lower your academic success, and we have lots of advice for you. And we have lots of reasons why you should lower your academic success. Why you should lower your academic stress is because it will actually help you be more successful, and it will give you more time, and it will give you more freedom in your life. Please, other people on these squares, jump in and give Raven some suggestions and advice on how to do it.
So you don't have to be perfect. You don't always have to do everything to like the nth degree. Learn how to prioritize what's most important, time manage.
Good, keep going.
Kind of go off what Don said, not everything has to be your best work. Sometimes you just need to turn something in and get it done and get it off your plate.
Absolutely, you don't have to be your best work. Done is better than perfect. Great, what else?
Schedule time for yourself when you can.
Take some time for yourself. That's really important. So whenever you get that time, I'm going to jump off that there, Jordan. I'm going to say, Raven, that you should get up early so that you have time for yourself. And that'll get you going in the morning, read the paper, whatever you like to read. You like to read a paper, a magazine, you like to get on Facebook. Do that in the morning. Take some time for yourself, and then you'll be ready to go, and that will totally lower your academic stress. Absolutely. Take those syllabuses and really take a calendar and put out like when everything is due, right on a calendar right from the get-go. I set a reminder about like 5 days before it's due, and that keeps me on task and lets me know when it's coming, that I really need to get on point if I'm not on point. That really works well. So I think you should do that as well. And yeah, done is better than perfect. Let me tell you something. You don't have to read everything, just read the first couple of paragraphs and the end of everything, and that's good. So pick out the things that you want to read and spend some time there, and the other stuff, just beginning and end, and you're good to go, and what you should always, you should definitely participate in the beginning of class, like right when you know an answer, and that will save you. So then when you don't know it and you didn't read the thing, no big deal. Look, stress is gone, no big deal. Just lower your expectations, the higher your serenity. How do you feel here, Raven? We helping you out?
You're giving me anxiety.
I know, right?
But for the most part, a lot of, I know what you're saying is a lot of a joke, but I do a lot of those things already.
Oh, yeah, so we're already telling you stuff you already do, right? So that's not helpful, right? So, hey, Dad, nice suggestion, but I already do that, so not really helpful. So glad it works for you, but how many times do we do this? Like, maybe not so blatantly and intentionally as I'm trying to go a little bit overboard. But do we do this? How many times has it been done to us? How many of you have had an experience where something happened or you're in pain, like physical or emotional, and people are like, hey, Di, oh, your back hurts? Oh, yeah, here's the number for my chiropractor. You really should call them. I find it to be really helpful. I just want you to feel sorry for me for a second and be like, Di, I'm sorry your back hurts. Can I get you a seltzer? Like, yeah, you could, thanks, right? Like, right? So, and how many times is it done to us? And it doesn't feel good, and it feels judgmental, and it sets up blame and shame and all of that stuff. So let's try it a little bit differently. So Raven, you want to like lower your academic stress. Somebody read, I just put in the chat number 1, ask, and I have it in parentheses. Who will read the first question, and Raven, will you answer it?
Bingo. Raven, why would you want to make this change?
Thank you.
I want to lower my academic stress because I feel like I'm very educationally orientated and based. And so because I focus and dedicate so much time to my school and my studies, I don't really take care of myself the way I should.
Thank you. Somebody ask number 2. Put it in the chat there.
Raven, how would you go about it in order to succeed?
So some of my steps right now that I'm working on to accomplish this goal is like my first step is getting away from the screen. So a big part of like my academic stress is that I find myself just sitting at a desk on a computer all day, and then like for like my time on like Facebook or Snapchat or something like that, it's again still looking at a screen. So my first goal is like getting away from the screen, whether that's like going outside, leaving my room, doing anything but academic related things and screen time. And then I like journaling a lot, but I stopped doing it because I'm always doing homework. So I've like created this folder and this binder where I am able to just like journal, and I set time aside each day to just like, and there's no like topics or anything. I literally just write because I enjoy doing that. And then I'm also doing, I'm doing like one self-care technique or tactic a week that I'm gonna try out. To see like what I do enjoy like doing for self-care that's beyond like bubble baths and face masks.
Great, thank you. Somebody ask number 3, please.
Raven, what are the 3 best reasons for you to make this change?
3 best reasons to make this change is 1, to take care of myself, to be healthy. 2, to actually have hobbies and other interests outside of school. And 3, because I think it like clears my mind and makes me a better student when I can get away from school and do things that like make me who I am.
Excellent. Number 4, please.
Raven, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least important and 10 being the most important, how important is it for you to make this change?
I'd say probably like a 7 or an 8. Like I'm pretty dedicated, but I also know I'm very much so dedicated to my studies as well.
I'll ask this one because it could be a little confusing at times, so just to keep it flowing. Thank you, Raven. Why did you choose a 7 or an 8 and not a 3?
Because I like my personality, when I decide I want to do something, I make it happen. I'm very like determined with my goals, but also not a 10 because like I just said, like I know that I'm very academically based, and if it came to me making a decision between doing a self-care, like setting aside time to do self-care or complete an assignment that's due, like I know myself, I'm going to do the assignment.
Great, thank you. Will somebody please reflect back and provide a short summary of what Raven just shared with us all, of what we all heard?
I can try. I was writing some things down, so I might miss some things. Raven, help me out, okay? So Raven, you'd like to make this change about reducing your academic stress because you think that it's going to make you a better person overall, provide you with some time. When you reduce your screen time, it'll provide you with some time to do some other things that are more enjoyable, which will likely reduce that academic stress. And you're pretty confident that you can make this happen, this change happen for you.
Excellent. And then Pam, you could just say, have I heard you correctly?
Have I heard you correctly, Raven? Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you got it. Thank you.
Excellent. Way to be. And somebody ask number 6, please.
So what do you think you'll do?
Thank you.
Raven.
I think that I am going to like continue to try out my goal and see how far I can get and how much like effort I can set aside and time I can set aside for this goal to accomplish in 10 weeks, because that's my original goal.
Well done, all. Raven, how did that feel as compared to the first one? And
it felt like y'all were actually listening to what I wanted in my goal. I think like a big thing, especially being a social worker, I know when I do goal planning with other people, like sometimes I create this expectation for them. I think we all do that at times. Like we have this idea of what sounds best for our clients, but at the end of the day, like the best thing for our clients is where they feel they need to make a necessary change. And so like allowing me to actually input how I feel and how I want to do it gives me all that power.
Great. Thank you. And those of you who are listening and participating and reading the questions and all that, what was going on for you all?
For me personally, I try to like sit with the person, like sit with Raven in this instance. It's hard with the training. I was also trying to take notes myself. And so, but typically in, having conversations, I try to sit with the student and try to be where they're at and kind of feel where and try to understand where they're coming from. And also reflect that back to them. And the nice thing is that if I do reflect it and it's wrong, like they'll correct me on it and let me know, like, and take us in whatever direction we need to go. So that's what I appreciate about this approach, is that it takes the pressure off. Like it's all about what the individual wants and needs and not necessarily about what I can give them.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said.
Can I add to that, Diane?
Absolutely. Please, Pam.
So I didn't realize when you started firing things at Raven initially that you were doing that intentionally. And my reaction was, whoa, like, what is she doing? And it just created this wall for me, and you weren't even talking to me, for one. But I saw myself sometimes in being that solution focused person, like, well, what about this or that? Mm-hmm. And firing those options, while it's great that we give advice, we need to make sure that it's consistent with that student and what they're thinking. So I really, remember me, the process oriented person.
Yeah.
I really like the questions that draws that student's experience and thoughts and ideas and plan, and then we add to it.
Yes, so well said. And gosh, you all are helpers. You all want to help, right? Of course we want to help. But how do we help people? And how do we want to be helped? we have our own experiences, we have our own thoughts, we have our own ideas. When we were able to stop and take a moment and pause and hear from Raven, she had some excellent solutions already for herself. When she listened to us rapid fire giving her advice, she's like, yeah, thanks, I already know some of that. Some of it I do, like whatever. And it does, it puts up the wall. And thank you, Pam, for saying like, it wasn't even coming at you and you felt that wall being put up. You know, and think of our own experiences when we've put those walls up, when we've been met with that, versus when we're met with, oh, tell me what are you already doing, right? If I have the space to share that, I will then be more open to your suggestions. And when your suggestions come as suggestions, not as advice, I'm much more open to it once you elicit from me. I mean, what's a way that we can give suggestions?
I think just to kind of add on to what you were saying, I think that wall becomes even more well-defined and difficult to get past when all of this is coming from someone that we really expect to be helpful.
Right.
In other words, I had a physician come at me like that once about smoking.
Oh, yeah.
And all it did was make me say, okay, that's it. I'm not going back to him. And I had to, you know, tell that to the referring doc too. No, I'm not going back. He's patronizing and disrespectful. And that's how that feels to me when I get hammered like that.
Terry, thank you for sharing that. And you can set up like the next thing more better if I like set it up for us. So thank you for setting that up. So you'll see how that's gonna play perfectly into the next piece here. You know, if we could get rid of shame and blame, people will talk to us about anything. Right? In the beginning part, it sets up the wall and it sets up the shame and the blame. Hey, you should just do this, just do this, just do that. Hey, here's what you got to do, right? I got the wall up. I'm feeling shame. I'm feeling blame that I'm going to shut down. I'm going to lie to you. I'm not going to say things to you. I'm going to retreat, right? But if we can open up and be not judgmental, non-confrontational, get rid of shame and blame, people will talk to us. How many of us had the experience where we're talking with somebody, whether it be a student, a friend, a colleague, and they're like, wow, I can't believe I'm telling you this. I've never told anybody this before. I don't usually tell people this because of the way that we hold those conversations, right? I've sat with plenty of students who are like, I can't believe I'm telling you this. I'm like, I know, keep going, you know? Oh man, and when I can make particularly young men cry, man, that's when I know I'm earning my paycheck, and that we're doing a great service to the world and breaking sexism and patriarchy when we can make our young men cry. Because of sexism, they're told they shouldn't cry, right? And how sexism hurts everyone. And wow, when we can create that space, that is such a healing space. So let's dig more into motivational interviewing, a conversation about change. We're really, can I just ask this? You can't see me moving your faces around, can you? You can just see the screen. Is that correct? Okay, good. Okay. Because that would be distracting to you. So really, it's what motivational interviewing is at another level is a collaborative conversation style. It's a way of being. It's a style of strengthening a person's own motivation and commitment to make change. We have to find what drives each person to make change. I know it drives me to make my own academic change, but what's going to drive Raven to make her changes in her academic way of being? Why is it so hard to make change? Sorry, social workers, but here's a fun little snippet here. How many social workers does it take to change a light bulb? Just one, but the light bulb has got to want to change. And you know, that is the whole premises for why I named, like, you know, when I do consulting or whatever, I've got a little website that I put together and put a little name to it. Actually, I did it I hit a professional wall about some things and was in a really dark, rough space professionally. And what actually got me finally out of it was putting some other focus into this work. So it was really cathartic to put a website together that I think 5 people have viewed, and it was my mom 4 times. So, but I did put a name to it because we say we could lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink it, right? But we have to make the horse thirsty. So how do we make the horse thirsty? We use motivational interviewing. which is how we actually salt the oats and help the horse be thirsty, because we cannot make the horse drink the water. So I like this concept so much, and it was so imperative and so central to the work that we do that I named like my little consulting thing after it, Thirsty Horse Consulting, which by the way, I also love the acronym. So what's the acronym to Thirsty Horse Consulting? Okay, some of you are getting it, right? So like a little inside joke for us prevention people, but really that is the work that we're doing. And we use motivational interviewing. It's not a lifeboat, it's not a save all, it's not a whatever, but it is a way to help people make change. It's a way where we're leading students in a gentle, responsive, imaginative way. Where, remember I said the difference between communication and therapeutic communication? Therapeutic communication is we are intentionally using our verbal language and our nonverbal language in a way that is responsive to what the student needs, or our child needs, or our parent needs, or our, fill in the blank needs. We've got to take ourselves out of being the expert, out of being the, if you just do this, your life will be better. Now, of course, we know for some people, if they just do this, their life will be better. But we see from our own experience, being told that is not going to help us make change. And you have excellent ideas and ways that people should make change. Absolutely. So we're going to do another role play here where you're all going to do it in a breakout where you're going to experience this, or I hope you will. And it will get at exactly what Terry was talking about here. So in the interest of you all having the feeling of this, and show, hopefully this works. I have another Google link to a smoking role play. So Terry, this one's for you, my friend. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Okay, here's what we're gonna do, and just give me 1 second here to figure out where the chat is once this is like this. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I'm just going to stop share for a second because it's easier. Okay, in the chat, hopefully you will have the ability, or at least one person in the group will have the ability to go to this Google Drive. And if it works, then yay. You will have a link to a smoking role play. I guess I can also put this up on the screen here. Might work. So what this is a scripted role play. I was involved in a training. I have no idea if I'm even still sharing my screen anymore. No. There we go. I was involved in a training from Linda Sobel many years ago, where the nugget I got out of that that training was this role play. I edited slightly, and it might need to be edited for the current decade with vaping and stuff for students. But what it does is it gives you 2 role plays. One is a non-MI role play, and we're going to do that one first. And then you're going to do the MI role play. I'm going to do this a little bit differently just for the sake of we're on Zoom and time. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. We're going to put you in breakout rooms of pairs. If there is a threesome in there, I don't know if they're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12. Hara, if you put everybody but me in, then we'll have pairs. That'll be great if that's cool. Okay, so one of you will be the helper. You'll be like a medical provider. In the beginning one, you'll be the expert, know-it-all. Your lines they're scripted out for you. So if only one of you have the script, then that's easy to decide who the helper is. The other one is the patient. So you're going to pretend you're a smoker. Hey, if you are a smoker, embrace it. Here's your chance to shine. If you're a quitter like me, embrace that. And if you've never smoked before, well, embody, play the role. Be the role. So you are somebody who is active. You're pretending to be somebody who's actively smoking. So your first role play, you got your script, the other person just answering. Then take a deep breath. I'm going to ask you to do 2 and 1 for this, just for the sake of transition. And then you can keep the same roles or switch. I don't care how you want to do it. Then you'll do the next one, and the next one will be MI. And then we're going to come back and we're going to debrief it. So if you are the healthcare provider, your lines are here. And if you're the patient, just answer. Okay? Questions?
How much time are we giving everybody, Diane?
Oh, such a good point. How much time are we going to give? I know that these don't take all that long to do. Let's give 6 minutes just to give time. And if you're done beforehand, you could use the 6 minutes to keep chatting if you like, or you can come back. It's up to you. Freedom of choice. Glasser choice theory is an important part of all of what we're doing as well. Okay.
We'll have one group of 3, Diane, just because I can't go into a breakout room. So it'll just be me and you in one group of 3. So we'll go ahead and go in now, and then I'll give you guys a 1-minute warning as I did last time.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Is everybody in? What do we got here? Okay, Terry and Pam, are they in a room?
They should be joining.
All right, and Pam, maybe they were figuring out how to go. Pam, I think you hit join.
There we go. Everybody should be in a room.
Oh, wonderful.
Perfect. And I set my timer.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right. How are we doing here? How are we doing on the flow, on what I'm supposed to be covering, on your experience of this?
Yep. I just checked the agenda. I think we're doing perfect on schedule.
Okay.
So I think that's good. This is my first time hosting it, so I think it's going pretty smooth. I've been checking the chat. I haven't seen anybody, any hiccups, but I got the breakout rooms, my first round of them. I was a little bit confused how to do it, but I think I got it. So
great. See, look, we're all learning. We're figuring out as we go. It's all good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
no, I think it's going great.
I cut out a whole piece about like alcohol and marijuana and just some background information because I think everyone here seems to have substantial experience. And I thought it more important to spend more time in the MI stuff and practice than going over that stuff. And it'll be in the PowerPoint for them to have it if they like.
Perfect. And we are on track to end at 11:30, correct? Or is it 12:30?
I have 12:30.
12:30. Yes, you were right. Thank you.
Great. I'm like 11:30 now. I'm not on track.
Yes. No.
I have. Okay. Perfect.
Yep. So we have an hour for the MI stuff, a little bit longer, and then we'll have that 30 minutes after.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to, I'll try to give another little 5-minute in a few, just because that feels right.
Yeah, that'll be perfect.
Have we been going another hour?
I think at 11:30 it'll be an hour.
Okay.
So maybe after the breakout room and we collect.
Okay, after a debrief, we'll give them another 5 minutes. Okay, that feels important to keep doing. Plus, I'll share it with them too, like a Zoom article I read about, an article about Zoom I read about Zoom fatigue and how our gaze is, like lots of reasons, and I'll share with them in a bit, but like how our gaze is just fixed here. And it is exhausting. So we got to take a little time to
look around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think Jordan made a great point. Like, she just has like screen fatigue. Like, I mean, even if it's not for school stuff, like I just don't want to be looking at a screen. Like, even just doing stuff. I hate looking at my laptop these days. Like, you don't want to do anything on your laptop because you're always on your laptop.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The only thing I want to do on my screen is watch Madam Secretary.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm always down to watch TV. I don't consider that a screen. Those are just a second pair of eyes, in my opinion. I don't count TV as a screen. My boyfriend can vouch for that. I've spent a lot of time watching reality TV and just TV shows in general. We just got done watching Schitt's Creek and
right, isn't that so good?
Oh my god, the new season was amazing.
I should have brought up my Ooh David mug that my mother.
Oh no, you have an oh damn, that's amazing.
I'll tell you, it got me instant buy-in with those nurses the other day. It was like great. I was drinking it and they were funneling in, and it was a great conversation starter, and it got me.
That's amazing.
Got me in, you know.
I saw somebody had it as a stick around their car, and I'm like, I need that.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, but yeah, I've been doing, I mean, I enjoy TV because like you said, it's kind of like a getaway where I don't have to think and I can kind of put my brain on pause. I don't have to think about family stuff. I don't have to think about work. I'm just tuned into the TV and I can just let my brain for a second, which I think we need sometimes.
Oh, we really do.
Yeah, yeah. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
We're at the 4-minute mark, just to let you know, and then I'll give them a 1-minute warning when it comes around.
Boy, I think that's enough time to do these role plays.
Okay.
And then hopefully they'll use that time just to connect, right? That's
the
most important thing about all of this.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm excited. This is my first my second connection with the MyHen team. And I'm now seeing Olivia was actually in my high school. We actually went to high school together. And this is my first time connecting with her professionally. So.
Oh, that's so wild.
Yeah, I know.
I love those small world connections.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool to see that she's in the same field as me, went to different colleges and stuff, but kind of got brought back to the same place.
That's wild. You see, now my only connection to somebody that I went, like it was when somebody I went to college with, was at a conference many, many years ago. I'm in this like restaurant bar area in the conference hotel area there with my friend and a couple of colleagues from, other states. And she sees me and my friend sitting there, and she's drunk, and she goes, "Wow, there's a couple of lesbians." And I was like, oh my God. And I look up and she looks and she's like, "Jax, no shit, is that you?" And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And I'm like, oh my God, KT. So I was like, no way. And I was like, wow, okay, it's like a little time warp here. And that was my connection with the past.
Oh my gosh. Wow. A blast from the past. That's hilarious.
I was like, oh my God, I don't want the floor to open up now. And yet I'm like, my friend Sally, she was like, wow. I'm like, well, my past. I'm like, here it is. That is me.
Oh my gosh. Wasn't that funny when, just that happens.
Uh-huh.
Welcome back, everybody.
Are they flashing back?
Here we go.
Oh my goodness, great. Oh wow. Hello. Did you get to the end of that? You did? No? Karen, you didn't? Oh my gosh. Okay, Olivia did. No, Lori didn't. 6 minutes were you all chatting? No? All right. I'm taking notes to self here.
Oh, here I am talking when I was on mute. So I just got into the role too much and was like answering the questions in too long of a format.
Okay. All right. Fair. Well, it's hard. Like I can't read your rooms, right? So, here's challenges of Zooms and presenting where you can't read the room as well as I can in person. In person, I would be able to go around and listen to you, and I would know when you were all done, and I would ask like, "Did you all reach the end?" But I would actually know because I would be right in the same room with you, and I know what the role play is. So hopefully, you got through enough of it.
Oh yeah, I thought it was a really excellent experience. It was fun too.
Okay, so let's Karen, thank you, and it was fun too. Yay, I like fun. So let's go there. Here's my plan. We're gonna debrief this a little bit, and then we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll keep digging into MI. Okay, so does that sound okay for plan wise? Okay, so you know it's coming up. Okay, so yes, please share with me your experience. Because I'm doing a little bit differently, I'll just open it up like that. Just share your thoughts and experiences.
So I was paired with Lori, and Lori did a fantastic job of reading the questions and playing the role. And I was the smoker, but I am not a smoker. So that's why I had so much fun. And I have to say that the first part, which was not MI, you know, of course it wasn't helpful, and I felt like I was being shut down, like not given very much time to talk or share, and it was just kind of a rote question, or yeah, question, you know, and then this is what you need to do. But for some reason it didn't personally bother me too much, maybe because I'm not a smoker and so I didn't take it personally. But also I think because I've been through these situations so often, and you know, personally when I've gone to healthcare providers. So it's almost like I'm used to it.
So you come to expect just to have questions being fired at you that your answers don't really matter.
Yeah, while someone's typing it into a computer. Yeah. Yeah, and
so
then,
go.
And then when we switched to MI, I mean, Lori's like the whole demeanor changed too, which is really cool, and her tone of voice, and so immediately I felt totally different. I just felt relaxed, and she asked me if she could ask me some questions. I was like, sure. So it was definitely a shift in how I viewed her and how I felt about the situation. Yeah, and we didn't get through it all, but what we did get through was really good.
Great. You've highlighted so much there, Karen, and through both of y'all's role play there, really highlighted a lot of points there. Oh my gosh, that I wrote something down and don't even know what that says. I love my handwriting. I love I just want to also highlight, and it's a good place to talk about this too, is around how Lori's whole demeanor changed. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, well, I kind of have some inside information because Lori said the first part made her very uncomfortable, and she was cringing inside. I think that was her words. So maybe I picked up on a little bit of that discomfort, but she also wasn't really looking at me as much as when she was doing MI. Yeah, and then when she was doing MI, it just seemed like she automatically relaxed, kind of slowed down. She seemed to be more present, and there was that connection. Whereas without MI, there was no connection.
And I felt during the first part that I was being very judgy. So the first question is, how long have you been smoking? And she said she started when she was 12. And in my mind, I was like, 12, holy crap, where were your parents? So immediately I'm judging her since she was literally a preteen. And, you know, it just never gets better after that. My family jokes that, and I've learned so much with the work that we do with Hope Not Handcuffs and helping people into treatment to practice this. And Karen asked if I'd ever done this before. I've never been formally trained in MI, but you kind of pick it up as you go on what works and what doesn't. So that's why I was really excited about this, that I can actually learn it now. But my family always jokes that I should have a radio show because I like to give advice. But my show isn't that you call in. My show is that I just randomly call people and give you unsolicited advice. And so I'm really trying to work on that. and this is going to help.
Oh, so good. And hey, thank you for sharing that, because that's really honest and important to say it out loud and half size it by saying it out loud. And thank you for acknowledging the like 12, right? And when it happens in our head, somehow it comes out in a different way, right? And it's good to know where our like, what the heck triggers are, or trigger, maybe that's not the right word, but you know, where it lies for us, so that we can explore that so that we're like, oh wow, 12. And so we have a different level of empathy and compassion. But I get caught where somebody will say something where I'm like, woo, and like have a thought or a judgment or something, right? Because wow, and then I have to work through it and then have a different whatever. So great. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I want to keep making some space here. So we'll keep unpacking as we go. Thank you. Okay, more thoughts. This is beautiful. Keep it coming. Permission.
I am not a smoker either, but I studied nutrition in college, and I think Karen said she was a dietitian, so this might sound familiar to her. But I guess I kind of it seemed reminiscent of like I guess I imagine this conversation like the first one, like as I was a patient with the non-MI interview, and like if someone wasn't asking me about smoking, but maybe about my diet. And it's like very pointed questions, and like, you know, what are you eating every day, and how many and don't you know that's a lot of calories, and like it feels very much like they're calling you out on things you're doing wrong, like, and which, I mean, I guess that's maybe the point, is what they're supposed to be helping you, but it seems like it highlights like the mistakes that you're making, instead of helping someone. Like the second part is more of like, so this is like recognizing your behavior, and then, you know, would you like help on it, versus like the first round felt like very just, yeah, like judgmental, kind of like what we talked about. And like it feels like, I guess, like, yeah, I kind of it was easy to put myself in like those shoes, and it's like very uncomfortable.
Excellent. Thank you for saying that, Olivia. And thank you for bringing in, like, you can overlay anything on top of that, right? Like eating, medication compliance, exercise, sleep, you know, whatever it may be, you can put that in place of the smoking. Other thoughts?
If I could just jump in, I didn't get to do the activity, and I wish I could have. I read over it really quick, but for my personal experience, I just found a doctor, a personal doctor who actually does motivational interviewing, and I never realized it until literally this very moment that that's how she treats me is, and I had never found a doctor before that. And so I've always had a really hard time with patient care. My dad recently was diagnosed with cancer, and I've had to, you know, be a advocate for him, and that's been really hard for me. And then trying to be an advocate for myself was really hard. So I've been shying away from doctors in a long time. I haven't found a doctor that I was able to kind of connect with until I found my newest doctor who talks to me kind of like how Olivia said, and she doesn't make me feel bad about the things that I'm doing. Instead, she just tries to understand and meet me where I'm at. And, you know, even though mine's not related to smoking or something like that, but kind of like Diane said, it can fall on anything, and mine's kind of anxiety related, and, you know, all the stuff going on in my life. So, I mean, it just sparked in my head that that's what she's doing, and that's why I'm so comfortable, and I get excited to go to the doctor and see her and, you know, go talk to her about my issues, because she doesn't make me feel bad about them, but instead it's something that I'm working on. And so, I mean, it is motivational. It's something that I look forward to now instead of something that I dreaded before. So I just wanted to pitch in and say that.
Yeah. Thank you. What a difference it makes, right? When you can take that shame and blame out, and you can ask people what their experiences are. And when you can ask people, what are you doing to manage your anxiety? What do you do to help you when you get anxious? Well, we're eliciting from people their solution. Wow, that creates more of a conversation versus the interrogation, right? And now I'm going to engage with you in the conversation. Now, we had 6 minutes, and some of you got to the end of this. Like, did it take much longer to do the second piece? You know, when I first started asking these questions, I wanted participants to say, no, it didn't take much longer. But the truth of the matter is that y'all said, yes, it took longer. So I started to time it, because y'all were not giving me the answer I wanted. So I started timing it, and I found you're right. It took longer, but on average, it was like 45 seconds longer to do role play number 2 than role play number 1. So yeah, it takes a little bit longer to ask some questions, to hold this space for people. And we have to ask ourselves, is it worth it? You know, for a doctor provider, are you willing to take the extra maybe 2 minutes overall in your patient appointments? Because that extra 2 minutes that you might take might actually save you a whole other appointment, or it might actually save a hospitalization. right? So we have to really look at the cost benefit. Or do you just want to check the box and be like, yes, I talked about their smoking, and check, I'm the doctor, I'm giving all the advice, and this is what they should do, and they're just gonna, you know, do it or not. And if they don't listen to me, then it's their fault that they now are in cardiac arrest or have a trach because of smoking or whatever the you know, the thing is. If they just listen to me, told them so. But if we, you know, okay, so we get the point. Now, a couple of things that I want to highlight here that's, well, what actually helped me highlight the things that I want to highlight that's different. So a couple of things that were different from role play 2 than 1. So what did you notice that actually helped it feel more like a conversation, that took the shame and blame away, and that created space for you? What were some of the strategies?
So there were like so many strategies, right?
Okay.
So one of them, I thought, just by acknowledging kind of that humanness and that person in the room, by like using names and introducing yourself and like creating that connection. I also always love the permission giving piece of things, like asking, can we talk about this? And does this feel okay with you? And of course, I think we always have to acknowledge the good pieces. I think that's where we have to start to be able to think about how we're replacing behaviors or how to take that next step. So I really like that piece of, and that gives them the message of like understanding and that you're valuing that there is something positive that's going on here, that there is a purpose to this behavior. And at the end, what was hardest for me kind of in the first one was the idea that here's all the things that are wrong, here's all the things that are going to happen, and then you need to stop, but not actually following through with like, okay, so how do we do that? So if I agree with everything you've said, how do I make that next step forward? And so I love that piece at the end, you know, and just saying like, hey, you know, if you're in this spot, like here are some resources, like really giving that whole circle loop for that patient. So it feels 100,000 times different, I think. And I think the reflection piece too, of like acknowledging that you're hearing them and acknowledging that you're listening and that you are really a partnership in this conversation. And there's a million more.
Beautiful. Yes. Thanks, Kara. I'm going to reflect back a couple you said and just go from there if that's cool. The name. Using a name. Hi, Kara, my name is Diane and I'm your nurse today. How many times have we been in some situation where we don't know somebody's name and what their role is? I go to the doctor's with my kid and some random person comes in and starts poking and prodding at my kid. And I'm like, whoa, 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 slow your roll. What is your name and what's your role? Like I'm trying to look at the name tag and I'm like, hi, this is Wendy and she's a technical assistant, honey, or physician assistant. And I believe she's about to take your blood pressure now. What means she's going to, I'm like, Jesus, Louises, like treat the, like, you know? It takes no time to do that, right? So so by name, and a lot of times we know the names of the students we're meeting, and I can't remember names. I'm loving Zoom because your names are here. This is so helpful for me. I'm terrible at names, so I use different strategies all the time so I can help remember people's names. So I mean, that is so simple in rapport building, and yet so huge. Some of the stuff that we're doing is seemingly simple, but is really intentional. Again, therapeutic conversations, intentionally using our language to support the health and well-being of the person we're talking with. So an introduction and a name is huge. You mentioned permission. Y'all, you're gonna have advice that you're going to want to give. Lori, I'm gonna, you know, you could call me up and give me some advice. I can actually use some of that. So I'll be on your talk show, right? But you know what the thing is that if we frame advice as suggestions, it's softer and I may receive them a lot better than your advice coming at me. And how we frame those as suggestions, if we ask permission, if you ask my permission, you could go off and lecture me about anything because you got my permission, you got my buy-in. So, hey, I have a few suggestions for you. You know, students have shared with me some other tips that work for them. Would you like to hear them? So now that I keep getting older, every year I keep getting older, turns out. So now I hit like, well, I've hit middle-age status a long time ago, but now I can't really deny it. I mean, I'm right up against 50. There's no denying it anymore. So, so once I hit that, I'm like, man, I really have to use the strategy of bringing in other students, right? Because they'll take that advice better than from the old lady, right? Or I make a joke. Sometimes when I talk about sex with them and it is really funny when I was in the STI clinics and we were doing MI and having brief interventions in the STI clinics before they got tested and asking them about their barrier use, their condom use, and their what do they do for birth control and all that stuff. And then they don't want to use condoms for this reason and that reason. And I'm giving these like cisgender men tips on like put some lube in the condom and then put it on, and then they're looking at me and I'm like, I know, there's your sex tip from your middle-aged lesbian. I'm like, I don't know. And they're like cracking up. And so anyway, if I could bring it from a student's perspective, sometimes they're more willing to hear that. So hey, I have some tips so other students find helps them. Would you like to hear them? 9.8 times out of 10, they're like, yeah, sure, right? Hey, I have some more information. After I elicit some information about how alcohol affects men and women differently, after I elicit that from them and they give me whatever they give me, I have a little bit more information on this. Would you like to hear it? I've not had a student yet in 15 years say no. Awesome. This role play starts with, how does it start? I noticed on the form you filled out, first off, I love that because that lets me know the provider read the GD form I filled out. How many times do we fill the form out? You go in the room, a tech comes in, asks you the same questions on the form you filled out. Then the next person comes in, asks you the same questions the tech asked you on the form you filled out. And the doctor comes in and she's asking me the same questions that I've been asked 3 times already. Well, now I'm pissed off, right? So, too many happening on the computer. So I love this. I noticed you indicated on the form you filled out. Oh, you had me at, I noticed. Would you mind spending a few minutes talking about your smoking? I say yes, doors open, you have commitment. Everybody who I present to wants to know what happens when you say no. Okay. So Diane, can we spend a few minutes talking about the form? No. What are you going to say to me? Answer me as if I'm your student who said no, I don't want, or patient who said no, I don't want to talk about it.
What would be helpful for us to talk about right now?
Oh my gosh, thank you. What would be helpful? The fact I can't get this plug in. Oh, well, that I'm like totally stressed out and I don't even want to be here, and I don't know, something else. So beautiful question. I love that. Thank you. What else? That is a great way to go. And actually, I don't think anybody's given me that example before. Who said that? I was plugging in my phone and didn't see who said it. Thank you. That is brilliant, Dawn. Excellent. What would be most helpful to talk about now? I'm probably going to give you something that you're going to loop back into my smoking, and we're going to be talking about my smoking. So beautiful. What would be most helpful in talking? Nothing. I just want to get out of here. Okay. I hear that your time here is done and you just want to get in and out as quickly as you can. Yes. Life is really stressful and there's a lot going on. Yeah, it is. And I just got to get out of here. That is understandable. Right? Okay. Well, I've got building empathy and compassion. That is a beautiful way to go. Dawn, thank you for that. Another way you might go. Can we talk about your smoking? No. What's your reply?
I'll jump in. One of the things that I really liked about that second piece is it started off with, can I ask you some questions? And then it started off as, what are the good things about smoking? And when that came out of my mouth, I'm like, what doctor would ever ask that? Nobody asks, what are the positive rewards that you get from smoking? What are the positive rewards that you get from overeating? What are the positive rewards that you get from not exercising? There's a lot of positive rewards in that, and that's why so many people are overweight and smoke. So I love that, that I think that might soften it to say, you know what, obviously smoking it's a benefit to you in some ways because it's something that you're unwilling to think about giving up at this point. What are some things that you get from it? What are some positive things? What does it bring positive to your life? And I think maybe if you start off with talking about the positives, and not hammering on it's bad, you're going to die. Haven't you seen the commercials with the lady with the thing in her neck? You know, that doesn't help anybody quit, nor does the frying pan, you know, with the egg. That's not helpful whatsoever. I don't know why we keep, and I teach marketing, why do we keep wasting marketing dollars on that when it's not effective? Stop spending money on crap like that. But if we start off about, you know, you're getting something good. And what Kieran said to me is that it's relaxing and she can connect with other people when she's doing it. I'm a former smoker as well. I started when I was a teenager. Rarely people start when they're 40. And it was a social thing. I wasn't pressured to, but it was definitely a social thing. And it was relaxing because you're throwing yourself into nicotine withdrawal all day long. And it's relaxing to get out of withdrawal. So on top of regular stress, and we have now you're in withdrawal, but people don't realize that. They don't understand it. So I think coming off with, what do you get from it? You're getting a benefit from it. And I'm not asking you to quit smoking today. I'm not asking you that. This is your journey. You're driving the bus. Let's just talk about where you're at with it.
Yeah, Lori, this is absolutely spot on and fabulous, right? So I'm going to connect the good and the not so good thing to the permission. So getting permission to talk about it is huge and opens a door. And if somebody's like, yeah, no, I don't want to talk about it, you know, you might be in a rush. You might have a headache. You might have a kid that needs you. You might be like, thank God I don't have an extra 2 seconds to rub together, right? So you might make a decision to say, okay, I can really respect that you don't want to talk about this right now. There's some pamphlets on your way out, or, you know what, I'm going to drop a resource in Zoom. If you're on Zoom, however it is, because we're in this world, hybrid world here, I'm going to just drop a resource. You can take it or leave it. And, you know, next time we check in, you know, or if you're never seeing the person again, you can say something like, I'm just going to drop a resource here for you to have. And if you ever want to check back in with me, I'm happy to do that. Because guess what happens? When I leave that Zoom or I leave your office and I go outside and I go on my way to my car and I start smoking my cigarette, what am I thinking about? The fact that I didn't want to talk to you about my smoking, right? So I'm thinking about it already. So all of this is not about us. It's about the person we are helping. All right. So the other way to go is another way to go. However many of us there are in this call, 13 of us, there are 13 different ways to take this, right? Another approach is, oh, you're not interested in talking about it. Oh, why are you not interested in having this conversation at this moment? Oh, because you're just going to lecture me and tell me all of the things that are bad about smoking. Well, yeah, if I could totally understand, you don't want to have that conversation if you think I'm going to lecture you. That's fair. I'm like, actually, I was just going to ask you what's good about smoking, and what do you like about it? What do you get out of it? Well, you are what? Oh, yeah, no, every habit that we do has a reason that we do it. So I just wanted to explore with you what you get out of it. Oh, well, you know, it helps me relax and it's a social thing. Now, all of a sudden I'm talking about it, right? So, and now we're going to have that conversation. So permission is really key, and getting permission at different points in your sessions and conversations are great. And a couple of you, Kara and Lori, brought up the good things. I mean, any habit we do has had a reason why we do it. Why do I have way too many charges to Friendly's that I can walk to and curbside pick up my large Reese's peanut butter sundae way too many times while I'm binge watching Madam Secretary? I know this is terrible for me, and yet it serves me well, and I'm not ready to give it up right now because the good is outweighing the bad at the moment. But you can tell me all the reasons why I should maybe I should cut down to a medium, and maybe I should cut down to 3 times a week instead of 4 times a week, but I ain't ready yet because there are some benefits that I get at the moment, right? And if you can explore that, we're taking away judgment. By you asking me that question, what do I get out of it? You are acknowledging I get something out of it. I'm also listening to where the hooks are. So for whoever was the answer, Karen, the hooks were about anxiety, were about reducing anxiety, were about being social, right? We're about getting out of nicotine withdrawal, about helping to relax. Whoever was answering those questions, I forget who's actually the answerer there. So you get to use that. We have to help people to fill in that social, like, because when you make a change, you are also losing something. So any change that we are making, there's also a loss, and you are letting that person know that you understand that without being like, yeah, I totally get it, there's loss. You're letting them know in a different way. When you ask what the good things are, you're giving yourself more information and gathering more information, and you are also setting up the next question, which is what?
What are the negatives?
Yes, Dawn, thank you. Or what are the not so good? And again, this is nuanced and it's intentional use of language. So we're not asking, what are the bad things? What are the terrible things? That sets up a little judgment. Right? If you said, what are the bad things? Are you going to blow the whole conversation? No. But if you get to practice the nuances, or what are the less good, or what are the not so good things? Most people can tell you the not so good things of whatever habit that they are doing. You are going to elicit from them. You probably have some more not so good things. You see it from a different lens and a different perspective. You may also be able to add to that in a way, though, that we're doing it without, that takes away the judgment and the stigma. So we're eliciting from them the not so good. And then we can add like, yeah, all those not so good things of smoking make sense. And gosh, it also really is not good with your diabetes as well, or whatever it might be. Like I can hear that better now at this point. So it really sets that up, and it really brings us to a point of ambivalence, and that's what we're really working with for students. When the not so good start to outweigh the good, that's when we're doing some work here. For our students that we're working with, they need to see the impacts of their alcohol use, of their marijuana use, of their cocaine use, of their prescription drug use, right? And when they start to wrestle with that, oh man, that's where we're working with it. That's where we're rolling up our sleeves and really working. So you've really highlighted this. Another highlight that I think Kara mentioned here was around reflections. That yes, this was a scripted role play, and even in the scripted role play was an opportunity to add a little reflection. Like, so there's some good and some not so good things about smoking. It lets me know that you're listening to me. You've practiced the reflections already. You could take it to another level. You can paraphrase. You could take what they said and add to it. I have shown you throughout this whole presentation some reflections where I'm like, oh, can I go out on a limb and say blah, blah, blah? Sometimes I ask for permission to do that. Sometimes I've just taken what you've said and reflected and added to it. And then give pause. Do I have you correctly? Am I hearing you correctly? Yeah, you are. And if I don't, well, you're going to tell me, and we're going to go from there, which is really, really great. When I asked somebody to, for beginning the first role play we did where I put the questions in the chat, and Pam took the risk. It was quiet for a while, and Pam jumped in and take the risk to do the reflection back. And that typically is what happens because the pressure of wanting to get it right, That's real. I can make some assumption, we all kind of felt that a little bit, like, I don't want to screw this up. That is the love and compassion of which we are holding the stories and the experiences our students are giving us, right? And that we're going to reflect back to check in with meaning. And to make sure we have it right. And if we do mess something up or didn't hear them correctly, well, we're soliciting that, we're asking that, and they're like, actually, no, I'm actually really upset about this thing, or I'm really sad about this thing. Wow, yeah, thank you for clarifying that. That's an important point. I want to make sure I hear you correctly. Tell me a little bit more about that. I went to school, my master's is in school counseling, and my program was 3 years. And a huge takeaway is, tell me more about that. So there you go, 3 years of school counseling. In one sentence. The rulers there that we asked I'll end on this point, we'll take 5 minutes. The rulers that we end on, that I asked when I put the script in the chat and here, asking, you know, a scale of 1 to 10, where are you in wanting to make a change? 1, totally not. 10, yes, absolutely. Where are you on that? That there, my friends, gives you so much information, right? It takes the pressure off. I'm able to say a 1. I am not going to make a change. I'm actually able to say a -50 if I want to. And I've had students give a negative answer before, and that's awesome. That lets me know where we're at, because we have to work with where the student is at. And that tool is amazing in letting us know where a student is at. And then we say, well, so who just did it with me? How come you're a 7 and not a 3? We're going to ask them, how come they're a number and not a lower number? How come you're a 3 and not a 1? So what is the thought, do you think, behind asking a why and asking them why not a lower number? What tends to happen with this?
I mean, it kind of just shows you that you could be in a worse place and that you're kind of, I mean, you might not be there 100%, but you're there maybe 20, 30%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I agree. I feel like it's taking like the strengths perspective of like exactly what you just said. Like, even though you're not here or a higher number, you're still somewhere, and there is still some like area where that behavior can be changed.
Right.
Or influenced.
Yeah, great. So you're in a place of wanting to make a change. So it's highlighting that, even if that change is at a 3 or a 2, you're in a place of wanting to make a change. And by asking, how come you're a 3 and not a 1? So always asking a lower number is because that person will give you a reason for change. And that is what we're going for. It's called change talk. We are eliciting change talk. We are listening for, why do they want to make that change? Why are you a 3 and not a 1? Well, because, you know, my partner's kind of on my case. Well, great. Well, because the court's on my case, or the school is on my case, or because I should feel like I want to make a change. All right, well, tell me, why should you feel like you want to make a change? Well, because the school is on my case, or I'm facing suspension, or whatever it might be. We are eliciting change talk. We don't want to say, how come you're not a 7? Because if we do that, they will argue in favor of that habit. They will argue in favor of you. Things aren't bad, and I could keep drinking the way that I'm drinking. All right, so we want them to argue in favor of the change and what will make the change. If they are a 1, a great strategy is, what would have to happen in order for you to want to make a change? It's a great question. Well, you know, if I got kicked out of school. Well, if I got in a car accident. Well, and it's usually something drastic, and they usually go with, if I got kicked out of school. Oh, so if you got kicked out of school, you would take a look at your marijuana use and explore making a change. Yes, I would. Okay, well, I kind of don't want you to get kicked out of school or get to that point. So what would be one step before getting kicked out of school? Okay, that's a really hard question to answer. And that's a hard question. They may not have an answer, but it's one that they will wrestle with and try to figure out, because we're trying to set up change, right? We don't want them to fail out. We don't want them to end up in the hospital. So it's like one step before that cliff gets them thinking. Does this make sense? When we do the STI clinics and use these same strategies with those, I will say to students, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1, never, 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 10, totally, always. Where are you on that scale on your condom use, on your barrier protecting from STI use? And they may say a 7, or they may say a 6, they say whatever they may say. 7 is a very common number. Okay, so 7. So is it fair to say that 70% of the time you use a barrier method to protect against STIs? Yes, that is true. Okay, great. So tell me more about that. Would you like that number to be the same, or would you like that number to be different? They usually say, well, it should be a 10. Oh, tell me why it should be a 10. Well, because of pregnancy. Well, because of STIs. Well, because of whatever. Okay, so what are some of the, when you don't use a condom, what are some of the reasons why then that you don't use a condom? And usually the answers are, I don't have one. we're drunk and it's an unsuspected, we weren't planning and it's a drunk hookup, or I trust the person. Sometimes that means sometimes that means they're in a relationship. Sometimes they just mean they trust the person, and we unpack that. But those are the top 3 reasons. But you see how we use that scale, and we use it a little bit differently, but how it's eliciting the change talk and eliciting, moving the conversation forward in a non-judgmental way. I'm not saying they should use condoms 100% of the time. They were telling me they should. But then they were also telling me what the barriers that get in the way, the challenges that get in the way. I can offer them one solution by here's a handful of condoms and here's my sex tips for you. Go forth and whatever, you know, and then they have to make their decision. How do you know to trust the person, so on and so forth. Okay, so those scales are awesome. When you're having conversations that aren't as structured as maybe our basics conversations are, and the conversation's going a little long and you got to bring it in for a landing, you got to wrap this junks up. These rulers are a perfect place to end on. So no matter where you are in the conversation, hey, you know what, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you on making the change here? That could help wrap it up. Okay, so you're a 7. What's something that you could commit to this week? What's a change you can make this week? Ask them. They'll come up with something brilliant, or they won't because they're not ready to make a change. Make sense? All right. I have to go to the bathroom. Do you all? Okay, so this feels like a good place to take 5, yes? All right. Oh my gosh, it's recording, and now everybody all 3 other people who watch this after this, well, no, I have to go to the bathroom. All right, let's take 5.
I'll go ahead and set a timer, Diane.
Oh, thanks. I will
Yep.
too. Let's keep myself moving too. Thank you. If you're listening and want to play along with another poll everywhere, what brings you hope? I always forget. I'm doing something new, so I didn't set this up. But if you want to play along, what brings you hope? Or just think about what brings you hope. Oh, okay. Oh boy. That's just the old COVID, oh boy. Oh my goodness, this poll everywhere thing is kind of working. This is kind of fun. um, is this working? All right. What am I doing? Oh, am I sharing my screen? Yes. So you're seeing all the behind the scene stuff. Wonderful. Roop. All right. I think if we do this, move this out of the way. Yeah, looking how far I've come from the past brings me hope. I'm so glad. Oh, hope. You know, hope is it's not an antidote. That's not the word I want to use, but a protective factor in trauma and vicarious trauma. It's important. It's important to ask about hope and ask what brings them hope, particularly when we're working with different trauma and trauma responses. Hope is a protective factor. So pulling on people's resiliency, weaving in these questions in your conversations with students these days. I'm going to go on a personal thought, thinking that it feels really important to ask what brings them hope. What are their strengths? How are they using their strengths? What strengths are they learning about themselves during this time? What is getting them through? Who are they connected to? You know, what's their network, and really tapping into that. I mean, the 25% college students having suicide ideations scares me. And the way that as a country as we drink and we smoke and we escape, and as we continue to do that more and more, the way our country is literally on fire, literally on fire, and in many ways on fire, right? Like the wildfires, the continued 400-year plus history of oppression and racism, and classism and sexism, and what that is doing to ourselves, to our communities, to our families, to our students. It's heavy. I don't know what November is going to bring, but wow, it just keeps ramping up and ramping up. And I know that we're all going to need different support. I'm not talking partisan or it doesn't matter where you land on any of this. We all need support, right? It's really, I feel like it's so important to hold all of this and all this. I'm freezing. Is everybody else freezing? This conference sucks, man. There's no snacks. The coffee's cold. The room is freezing. Oh.
But Diane, you're doing a great job. So.
Right. And maybe I just distracted myself with all that because I was feeling the heaviness of it and had to distract myself of it. But it's true, right? And it's like how we hold the context of everything for ourselves, for our family, for our students. So anyway, it feels important to name it and bring it into our conversations. The social identities and the different identities that our colleagues, ourselves, our students bring is important, and it also indicates how I want to say how well they're doing, but that's not it. It's like social determinants of health, right? Like people are being disproportionately impacted, and that doesn't mean that, you know, me sitting in my white privileged world over here aren't struggling. I am, right? So it doesn't mean that my struggles are any less or whatever. And it's like, but and it doesn't mean that like I can't be like, wow, I can't. It doesn't mean that I should berate myself for having a hard time when people have it worse, because people do have it worse, right? So how do I own the resources I have and the privilege that I have while acknowledging the struggles that I'm having, while also reaching out to people who have far less resources and continue to fight so people have equity. That's anyway. I just holding all that in a just holding. Okay. So I tend to be the queen of awkward transitions, but you know, if I learn nothing about doing social justice work, it's about saying stuff even when you don't know totally what to say, and it's about taking risks and saying things when your voice shakes. It's about being imperfect and saying the imperfect thing. It's about taking a risk and saying something racist and sexist and ableist, and being willing to hear that feedback and correct, learn, and continue on, and talking even when your voice shakes, and being willing to make another mistake, and being willing to hear it and learn more, and know that it's our obligation to learn more in whatever we need, in whatever, and to continue and to carry on. So so I just model that imperfection and not totally knowing what to say, but that we need to say something. I was talking with a bunch of new people that I'm working with and supervising on this project last Friday, and it was Friday, September 11th. And I used a freaking plane analogy. I was like, well, we're flying the plane as, you know, we're building the plane as we fly on it. And then I remembered what day it was. And I'm like, okay, guys, I will be remiss to not note the day. Now I'm also talking to some undergrads who were either born that year or not born that year. But I know where I was that year, and I'm from North Jersey. So that is right across the border from New York City. You know, and I have first responders in my family and stuff. So, you know, I didn't know what to say, but I knew I needed to say something, right? So anyway, I just model that imperfection for you all. So welcome back. We have a half an hour left. And we have hit so much of oh, stop playing with the presentation here. We've hit so much of everything. I want to kind of recap a little bit here. We've actually talked about core techniques of motivational interviewing. Now, you know, in this short period of time, we've gone over and I've role modeled, and the pieces will continue to come together. You will probably, well, my hope actually is that you leave here actually wanting more, because we can scratch the surface of these shrinking icebergs here. We're not going to be able to give the overused iceberg analogy anymore once global warming continues to take over, but we are just scratching the surface of our iceberg during a 2-hour, 3-hour training. So hopefully you want more, and that's great. And hopefully you have enough to keep practicing, and hopefully you've seen enough to model to be like, oh, I can try this thing out in all different ways. Then the core techniques of MI are like learning how to play chess. You know, I'm teaching my kid how to play chess, and you know, in like an hour, 2 hours, like one game, she's learning how the pieces move. It's great. She also takes off the knights because they're harder to move, and I'm going to get back to that piece. But so the kid knows how to play chess, right? No, it takes a lifetime to learn how to play chess, and that is what I love about motivational interviewing, is that I am always practicing it. And if I'm a student of MI, which I really am committed to being, then I'm going to take every training that I have the opportunity to take, and I'm going to find those nuggets, and I'm going to figure out what I'm going to learn and practice on. And I've been practicing this stuff for 15 years, and I'm going to just keep practicing, because I am by far not an expert in this. I'm just a learner, right along with you all in it. And I'm going to keep practicing this, because it's nuanced, and it takes practice to keep being good at. So what are these core techniques? Well, they're the ORs, because we love acronyms and it's an easier way to remember things. Asking open-ended questions. So in the smoking role play, the first the role play, ask closed-ended questions where you give yes or no answers. Is there a time for closed-ended questions? Yes, there is. Sometimes you just need to know the specific thing. So it's not like they're terrible. But if we can ask more open-ended questions, well, then the person provides space for the person to tell their story. You might find you get much more information when you ask an open-ended question. You get more opportunity to learn more information from the student that you wouldn't necessarily know. By saying, hey, how much, tell me a number, how much do you drink? One way of going, and you need to know that answer. But if you say, tell me about your drinking, what does it look like? You will get far more information than 6. I drink 6 when I drink. Well, now you have to ask 6 what, how often, but if you're like, tell me about your drinking. Oh, well, it depends. Like, are we going to a fraternity party, a house party? Am I in my room? Are we pre-gaming before we go out? Now is it raining? Is it winter? Am I on season or off season? Right? They may have some questions that just let you know, oh, wait, this is far more complicated than how much do you drink? Like, well, tell me about like this semester, what does it look like? Oh, okay. Well, if we go to a house party, then I'm drinking about this much. When I pregame, I drink like this much. So you're offering them to tell you more. When we're doing this right, the students are doing more of the talking. These presentations, I don't model that very well. I tend to do more of the talking. Sorry about that. But in my sessions with students, if you can believe it or not, I do create space for them to do more of the talking. And it really establishes a rapport and sets up a non-judgmental environment, because it creates a space for dialogue versus an interrogation. Closed-ended questions kind of sets up this interrogation. Question. So we also want to break up those questions with some reflections. Oops. Which is also a core technique. We also want to highlight on the student's strengths. Really intentionally, why I asked you what your strength was and asked you to tell us a story about how you utilize your strengths. So we want to use their strengths to affirm. Sometimes we're taking a really easy affirmation to be like, thank you so much for being on time. Thanks for showing up and being here. That might seem like an easy affirmation, and yet it's huge. And then we want to provide summaries. So these are our core techniques. Some open-ended questions to have in the back pocket. People tend to like these so that they can have something to kind of pull from at different points in their session. So what are the good things about your behavior? Which sets up, what are the less good things about? We're getting at the negative consequences right here, and they're telling us them. Would you tell me more? We already went about that. Help me understand. So would you help me understand what it's like right now to be a first-year college student during COVID? None of us are in that position. So let's help understand from their point of view, which sets up and creates, starts with an E. Brene Brown has a video that we might get to watch about it. Empathy. Sets up empathy, right? Would you help me understand what it's like to, to struggle with anxiety? Help me what it's like to figure out how to deal with your depression. Wow, that's huge, right? You just created so much space for that student and that person, that colleague, that kid of yours, that child of yours to tell you some things. How would you like things to be different? Awesome question. What brought you here today? Awesome. Even in basics where they have to come, so when students violate an alcohol or drug policy, they have to come to this intervention. They have to have 2 sessions with us. I'm still like, so what brought you in? Well, I'm a dumb RA. Okay, great. Then I know some information, right? So they're going to tell me what brought them in. What would you give up if you lose? We talked about that, right? Sets up that you understand that they are going to lose something if they make a change. What have you already tried? Because then you're going to knock those off of your suggestion list. How would the night have been different if you didn't? That didn't say, hey, you should not drink. Just like, how would that night have gone different if you didn't drink? Well, you probably wouldn't have been missing for 4 hours and then found on a neighbor's front lawn by the police the next morning? Okay. I probably wouldn't be facing interim suspension. I probably wouldn't have gotten in that car and driven and now be in this spot, right? Like how, okay. The affirmations here around, you know, statements and gestures that recognize the strength, right? I'm really impressed with the way that you are trying a different way of being. It's really great how you've reached your goal of cutting back on your drug use, right? Being really specific, being authentic and specific. It's, you know, I'm really impressed with the way that you are acknowledging that you haven't been a very flexible person and that you're being more flexible right now. Tell me more about that. Wow, right? I'm pulling on my strength. I'm creating space for you to tell me more. Using protection really shows that you have respect for yourself and your partners. Oh, you can watch them. Am I lying when I say, like, you can see them when you're pulling on their strength, sit up a little bit straighter and a little bit prouder here? Yeah, okay, I do have respect for my partners. They didn't say that. You're reflecting that back. You're pulling on a strength and an affirmation, and you're right. And they're like, oh yeah, I do have respect. All right. And that is creating a non-judgmental, non-confrontational, loving, empathetic environment. We already talked about, you know, using a sense of quiet here, sense of quiet curiosity. A hard thing to do for me, I don't know about you, but a hard thing for me to do sometimes is to really listen and not think about my response. I have had to learn to trust myself that a response will come. I have had to learn to trust myself that if I just listen, because it's not an easy thing to do, and it's not, I'm not demeaning it, it is huge, okay? And if I just give the gift of listening, I will trust myself that I will pick up on enough of what the student is saying that I can reflect it back. I've spent 3 hours with you all and have gotten to know you a little tiny little bit. But what I can say to be true is I trust that if you listen and seek to understand, you will be able to reflect the key points back to those students. There are times where I don't trust myself and I'm doing things to like not trust myself. I know sometimes I do need to write things down because it really helps me and it keeps me focused and it keeps me on track. Know yourself. My suggestions, know yourself, go with your strengths, do whatever you need to do. Writing things down is perfectly fine. The students are like, yeah, I'm just going to write things down so that I remember them because I care about you and I want to remember. They're like, all right, thanks. Anyway, you can let them know that you care about them. I already went over this quote here in the very beginning from our friend Carl Rogers here, but I think it's worthy to put it in here twice. Rarely, we think we listen, but very rarely do we listen with real understanding and true empathy. Empathy, trying to see the situation from that person's perspective. Yet listening of this very special kind is one of the most potent forces for changes that I know. This is not fluff work. This is not easy. This is not just. This is real, heavy, big gifts that we give people. Knowing that I can't fix it for a person, but eliciting from the person their ideas and suggestions is really what's most helpful. When we do some reflections, things like, so you feel overwhelmed and exhausted by all this Zoom. Yes. It sounds like you're struggling with time management. It makes sense that you're doing that, or, you're wondering if there's another approach. What I hear you saying is you're close to giving up and you're exhausted. You can't find another way. Now that one's a little heavy that I just did there, but might be happening for students, right? Yeah, okay. So how do we take it to the next step here? Oops. The style and spirit of MI is really the heart of what we're doing and what we've talked about this whole time, y'all. So if you use open-ended questions, if you are reflecting back what you hear, if you're asking for, is there more? You're asking, tell me more about that. You are creating a positive, non-judgmental atmosphere for people to explore and have some self-exploration. What is good? Where am I on the screen here? What is good and what is not so good about whatever the behavior is sets up some self-exploration, sets up ambivalence. Ambivalence is the heart of the problem where we really need to work. And we're pulling it and eliciting from them. We do need to suspend some of our own opinions, judgments, and assumptions. And investments. I gotta not be very invested in some of my students giving up their use, because I will lose sleep at night, and that's not my role, and that's not helping them. I got to, if I can elicit and draw out the motivation from them, if I can seek their wisdom and insight and their ideas, well, I'm really doing a good job there. If I know that the responsibility to change is in their hands, I'm able to sleep at night, and I'm doing my job quite well. And if I know that the student is the expert in their own experience, and if I accept that where the person is, and that I can see all students as worthy. I've heard this from the first moment you're introducing yourselves, the passion that you have in working with students, and particularly students who are struggling with substance use disorders. There are people in our community, in our profession, in the medical field, who use disparaging language and disparaging words. And it's a much larger system, right? Like why people struggle with substance use is part of a larger whole. And how do we work on that on all levels? And I'm really passionate about how we work on that on all levels. But how do we accept where the person is and who that person is and see them as worthy? That is the work that we are doing. How do we elicit the students' insight and what they have going on here? How do we avoid arguing and roll with the resistance? One of you mentioned that as one of your strengths and your superpowers. That's huge. Good job. Using the open-ended questions, sitting as you have judgment, sit with your judgment. We all have judgment, y'all. Here's the deal. We all have judgment. Dude, some of it we label judgment, and it's actually information coming in. It's actually knowledge. I didn't know I had some judgment until my life situation changed. I was with my baby when she was a baby, and I was walking down the street. We were going for a little walk, and I saw a person pushing a baby stroller with a cigarette, smoking a cigarette. Oh my goodness, I did not know what rage, well, I do know what rage I have inside me, but I didn't know it was going to come out at that moment. I was like enraged. I had such judgment over that parent for smoking a cigarette by their baby. Now, that judgment was kind of warranted, I think, anyway, because they're smoking in front of that baby. But what I needed to stop and slow my roll with, thank God this all happened in my head, was I don't know that person's situation. You know, I don't know if that cigarette was keeping them from some far greater other negative thing that could have happened, right? I don't know what's going on. I did have judgment about smoking by the baby, which, well, it's just not good, right? But I had to stop and like kind of come to an overall different place with that. And then, you know, pull from students, elicit from them. I'm going to share this story here around avoiding with arguments and share with you a quick parenting story and how this falls into place a little bit. I'll use a more recent one. Within this last year, my kid gets diagnosed with really, actually dangerously low vitamin B levels, like dangerously low. Actually, it could result in permanent psychosis. So you have me at permanent psychosis, right? So, so she needs this thing, the methylated pills aren't working. Now we need to go to shots. So she needs to get vitamin B shots. She needs to get vitamin B shots every single day for 2 weeks. And after that, she needs to go to once a month, and then we need to test her again. Okay, so we go to the doctor, we get the shots, the doctor shows us how to put the shots in, the kid is a champ, she goes through it, fine. Next day we get home, hey honey, how do you want to do the shot? Which mama do you want to do the shot? She picks it out, we give her she picks out which mama, give her the shot. Ow, that hurt, but we got it in. Next day, we're like, this is great. Kid's being a champ with this, going smooth. Next day, it took a little bit more. We got the shot in. Day 3, it all goes to hell. We thought we were smooth sailing, but now it really, she remembers that it kind of hurts, and she's digging her heels in, and we have to go to school. We got to go. We got to go. So I'm trying to get the shot in. That's not working. Okay, next thing. I'm trying all these different strategies. I'm trying choice theory, this or this, 2 choices that you could live with that they get to choose. Yeah, that's not working. Okay, I was bribing. I went to my, standby. It usually works, bribe. Because we're like 45 minutes in now. So I tried and tested true bribe. And that didn't work. So shit, now what do I do? Thank God I remembered, but it was 45 minutes in, guys. And this just happened like within the last couple of months, like last month. All right, so this isn't like, I mean, I do this for a living, and yet it takes me this long to remember, oh, hold on a second. Deep breath. I'm like, okay, took my deep breath. Honey, we got a problem. You need to have this shot. You're not wanting to take a shot. What will work for you? What is your solution? Why didn't I do that 43 minutes earlier? Because the kid came up with something I never would have said. She said, Mama, I want you to give me the shot at night when I'm sleeping. And I'm like, oh, I feel so violating. I'm like, right? It feels like, I'm like, oh, honey, I'm not, okay, that's an interesting solution. I communicate with my partner. We're both like, oh, that feels violating, but she's giving us consent, and okay, we want to try it. Okay, we're going to try it, right? All this happens quickly through glances. Okay, sweetie, are you sure you want us to do this at night while you're sleeping? Yes. Okay, we'll do it. Out the door we go. Night comes, check in again. Sweetheart, are you sure you want us to do this while you're sleeping? Yes, Mama. Okay. She falls asleep, give her the shot. Ouch, in her sleep, but goes back to sleep. Next morning, wake up. Sweetheart, how was your shot? What shot, Mama? Sweet. Every day we checked in with her. Every night we checked in, got consent. Every morning we checked in, and continued on for 2 weeks. I would not have come up with that answer. What solution are your students sitting on that you wouldn't have come up with, right? So again, how do we step away from being the expert? And there's a place for us to give those solutions and give our input, but how do we elicit first? Excellent. It's all about change talk. Great. And it's all around setting up our conversations where the main goal is to help students articulate their reasons for change, which strengthens their intention to change, which means if I set a strong intention to change, I'm more likely to do that change. We know from our own experiences, we can't just flip a switch. Sometimes it's a gradual process, a long gradual process. Hell, my kid instinctively knows that I'm not going to just stop drinking my coffee. She set up a gradual process for me instinctively, So there we go. And students are more likely to do what they have spoken in favor of doing, right? So how do we set our whole conversations up to that? All right. Well, on that note, what are your thoughts?
On change thought or
on
change
everything, Dawn.
Everything?
Your thoughts on everything.
One of the things I like about motivational interviewing is that I've heard it described as like changing the script, that in all conversations, students in particular know that they're going to talk to the recovery person, the AOD person. Like they have a certain script in mind, like they know like you're going to tell them certain something, like you have to do this, and like I really like that it changes what the students expect to come from the conversation, and that automatically like gives students like a different level of engagement once they recognize that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. That changing the script, I really love the way that you you phrased that, Dawn. That was Dawn who just talked, right? Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, changing the script. What they expect. Somebody earlier said, oh, well, in the first role play, oh, that's what it didn't really bother me that much because that's what I expect from a medical provider, right? And then how do we change that script to expect something different? Thank you for that. Other thoughts about anything? I know it's so wide open, right? We've covered so much ground, but I'm just opening it up for.
This is Karen. So I'm just imagining myself in the office where I do counseling, which is actually now here in my home where I do counseling, and just how much better it will feel to implement these techniques. So I've had a few other presentations on motivational interviewing, and I use bits and pieces, and it's very helpful. But what I would really love is to figure out a way to practice this.
Right.
So, yeah. Any suggestions?
Karen, yes, so right on. It's transparency here is that doing some of these trainings, it is a challenge for me as a facilitator to meet the needs of everybody. I was a health and phys ed teacher, and that was my undergrad. And we use a slanted rope theory around how do you create your class where it's a challenge for everybody. So for those like less skilled class kids, how do you make it so that they have a challenge but can succeed, right? And then for the more skilled kids, how do you make it so it's a challenge but they can still succeed? So I am continuously trying to find a balance and strike the balance now. And I don't know that I always do that. And in 3 hours, and particularly on Zoom, I'm having some challenges in practicing that in these spaces. So longer times will allow us to do that in breakouts and practice that in these types of settings. So there's that. And I'm trying to provide little breakouts and little ways that you can practice it is one way. And so there's that. And then another way, and I really do this for myself, and so here's my suggestion, is I really try to take a skill and try to practice it in all of my conversations. I try to okay, Diane, open-ended questions, holding a non-judgmental space, and reflections. Reflections is when you play chess, I said my kid takes out the knights. It's like reflection is like attacking with your knights on a chess game. It takes some skill and practice to practice reflections. And I have taken to, when I'm working with talking with my kid, to do more reflections versus questions and seeing how that goes. And it's kind of low stakes, right? Because it's just having a conversation with my kid. She doesn't know I'm doing that, right? I'm not doing it on her or to her. It's just places where I'm putting more of a spotlight on myself and seeing where the conversation goes and how it goes differently. So I am trying to do that in all of my areas. I'm trying to take a spotlight on when I have supervision meetings with my staff, like Diane, how can you practice open-ended questions and providing hearing to be heard, versus seeking to understand, versus me being yeah, but, I hear you, but here's what's coming from the administration, so just shut up and do this. That's what I want to say sometimes. But how do I take a different approach? And it's about pacing. So that's kind of my, my half-assed 3-second suggestion is putting a spotlight on yourself and then reflecting back on some conversations. Hey, did I do more of the talking in that conversation? Did I really listen to understand? Did I just look for an opportunity to tell my story? Or did I look where I could resonate with somebody and say, hey, you know what, that really resonates with me. And I've been practicing that a lot too. When somebody's yeah, I'm stressed out, overwhelmed, I'm yeah, I could really resonate with that. That lets the other person know I got a story too, but I'm gonna, leave it there, right? And then when I have those moments where I'm damn it, I totally took over that conversation, or I totally took more, I sit with that and be all right, let me do it differently next time. On that note too, I just put in the chat there, I just made this up last night as a way to get some information for you all. I usually have a evaluator form that I hand out, an evaluation, and I ask for the gift of your feedback. And then people usually do it and send it back to me, or they give it to the facility, you know, they give it to whoever was the organizer, and then I get it somehow. But I don't have that way of doing that online. So I created a Google Doc, and it's the first time I'm using the Google Doc in this way. So I have a link there, and if there is some time where you could give me the gift of your feedback, that would be immensely helpful. I am looking to make these trainings more practical and on point for you all being like you, and then any future presentation you have with me or your colleagues who might get stuck with me in another time. So I do see these as gifts, and for you, and I treat them as such. So I'm really soliciting your, hey, what was not so good? What didn't work well for me? What suggestions do you have for me? Bring it. And if something did work for you, great, let me know so I could keep doing it. So I really elicit that. I want to end on a couple of things here. And first off, it's Zoom stuff. I read an article about Zoom fatigue and that it's real, and reasons why. We don't have the usual coming in and out of a room. Our eyes are fixed on one point. When we're in a room with other people, we are looking around, we're looking at our colleagues, we're rolling our eyes, we're having little side conversations or side things that are keeping us engaged in a different way and keeping us present. We don't have that. I can't do the same things with you and have the same connections. I can't put my hand on your shoulder or come by your desk or knock coffee over in the same way that I could if I'm in the room with you, right? So things are different. I have to work harder to get your nonverbals. I'm working harder to give you nonverbals. When you're talking, if you notice, there was a couple of times where I mouthed something, because in Zoom, when you break in, and there's only one microphone that works at a time, right? So it's harder to do those minimal encouragers, like, yes, yeah, thank you. So I find myself awkwardly being like quietly to that's my style. I'm just sharing with you. It may or may not work. Another thing to note is we are entering people's houses, apartments, backyards, right? We're entering our students' bedrooms, and also we're getting some information too by some of what we see and hear and whatever. And this is vulnerable. I don't have a background on right now for the purpose of being in the same vulnerability with you all, right? So all these things are different that we need to take into context and hold and know that we're all struggling with. And there is, in the beginning when you went in the breakout rooms, I said, did you feel heard? You all told me that you were able to pick up on the nonverbals and you felt heard. And somebody even said eye contact, right? So there are ways to do this, and it is exhausting. So even 5 minutes here or there is good to just get our gazes somewhere else, and just to know, at the end of the day, this junk is exhausted. So if you are totally exhausted, well, because somebody's managing 3 kids or 4 kids in a household, or 1 kid on Zoom, or a partner, or just being alone and not having that is another thing, right? So so wherever we are in this is something. So if we can go out with, again, here we go, Queen of Awkward Transitions, right? So if we can go out with some takeaway that will assist you in your conversations with your family members, your students, your work, something that you gained today that will assist you, that will be great. And I can just take a few, and not everybody has to go, but at least 3 jump in there, please.
I'm not good at using scales, and so I always forget to do that. So I really appreciate that, and the suggestions you had around using scales as well.
Great. Thank you. The scales are so wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Also, if you do have little ones or big ones or not so little ones or whatever, these scales work with them too. Just saying. Try them out. Yeah. Thank you. The scales. 2 more takeaways.
So I really, really appreciated your story about your daughter and the shots. And, it just helps me remember that I don't have to be an expert overnight, that it takes time and it takes practice. And And even you who's been doing this for 15 years, you know, when it gets emotional, it can fly out of your head. Yeah, so I appreciated that.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. One more, please. I invite you. One more.
Honestly, like I signed up for this because Lori like sent it to me, and she just said, yeah, I think we would both benefit this. You should do this. And I really was kind of unsure what motivational interviewing even was. I really wasn't that familiar. So came into it with an open mind. Definitely, I knew I was going to learn something because I really didn't even know what it was entirely about. But it's really cool because I feel like I could apply this in many areas of my life, even just work. So it's kind of cool. Like I feel like I really actually did like learn something new to like go into the future and take with me in like any kind of situation.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. Yay. Thank you for entering in that, Olivia. That's so great. And yeah, it's a way of being. It's a conversation style and it's a way of being. So you have the slides. There's some more slides in there and some more information. So use it as you wish. You have my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me in any way that I can support you. Please know that I am. And I just honor you all for being here and spending the time. I know that we all have 9,000 things to do and our attention is all over the place. And I am really deeply grateful for the time that we got to spend together and thank you with deep gratitude for joining me on this little bit of a journey. And I'm here, so however I can support you. And if nothing else, just to know that there's somebody in the struggle of all of this with you, holding it with you. So any way I can. So thank you.